they've gone full, let me not just say she, because obviously Jane is in this too, but full turf, like quite literally, that turf. Everything that has come out of your mouth in the last year that I have been privy to the work that you do, and from you and Jane, is some racist propaganda, foolishness, some absolutely destructive bullshit. It is a mischaracterization of MLK's philosophy. I'm so sick of people, all these white people who don't read books, talking shit on MLK's name. First of all, MLK has never, when did y'all hear MLK come out and say, I believe in non-violence, because, like, what are you talking about? Because violence is wrong. He didn't say that.
That he stands on higher moral grounds when he will resist that unjust system non-violently.
Okay, so
birthing people, really? Come on. For me, it's not even like, oh, I don't want to be inclusive and I don't want to think of, transgender people. It's the phrasing, like, it just makes you sound like a weird object that, like, you're a vessel and nothing more. Like, birthing people just sounds weird.
Right? You see what I mean? So there you go. It's pretty minor. Here we go. You can see just all of the general like responses she's had. I'm not scrolling like ages and ages back through her Twitter. So anyway, right? That's the basic, and this is what's kicked all of this off.
I think it's funny because normally you would think if somebody is going on a right-wing press tour with your name and their mouth in specific, trying to obviously galvanize right-wing hate towards you, that you would notice, but.
Where's the right-wing press talk? Because I've been looking today for the Ana Kasparian stuff, and it was pretty hard to find half of the stuff she was actually saying. Right? And on that show, she came out with like mostly left-wing talking points. She gets ridiculous, some of this stuff. It really does.
The way that they already hate me, I was like, this really is a testimony to the difference between what it's like to be a white woman on the internet and to be a black woman. I'm like, they always hate me, child. So this isn't you, babe. So like, I got the memo. I'm like, oh, you calling me out by name? That's interesting and stupid of you to do. So here we are. Because I have been lighting her up.
I mean, you survived the Rising's audience. You can survive anything.
Honestly.
You're battle tested.
Honestly. Yeah, no, she's outrageous though. This is good. And and it's not just even just, they've gone full, let me not just say she, because obviously Jane is in this too. But full turf, like quite literally that turf. Like not a bad take. This is not one bad take. This is now a new school of thought.
Full turf. How? Because they had like the two, literally again, I had to search for Anna's like trans takes, and it's like literally, again, the thing about don't call me cervix haver, I'm not one, blah, blah, blah. And then, I think, what was the other one? The puberty blockers for kids. So that's being a turf. I argue with turfs on Twitter because it's fun, and for some reason Twitter, I think the Twitter algorithms realised I engage with them, so they keep showing them to me, and I can't resist a stupid argument. And Christ, do they make a lot, right? So like, I know turf arguments. I know what they are. They're mental, right? And it's like dehumanizing trans women. It's making them all out to be rapists. It's saying they're men. Oh, right? It's not going, hey, I totally support trans people, totally for trans rights. I'm opposed to all of the anti-trans bills. I just think maybe a puberty blocker is the right option for kids. And, I prefer as a woman not to be called a cervix haver and just to be called a woman. No, turf, that's crazy. It's not a turf. That's what being a turf is. And this is the problem that Anna was saying, that when, you don't agree with 100%, enemy, right? It just hurts you. It just makes you seem obnoxious. And then how are you going to convince anyone who doesn't agree with
espousing that she knows is some bullshit, that she knows is the right-wing playbook. She knows it because she's literally been on record saying so before. So, this is clearly
11 months ago. 11 months ago, like, if I want to say, hey, what's the correct take on this whole birthing person controversy, would have been like, well, I would say what Ana Kasparian said 11 months ago. That, because like, here's you on camera completely agreeing with Olimi's take, with and then that was the
now you claim I'm gaslighting you.
Yeah. Yeah, and also apparently calling her racist for that, like, and that's why she called me a racist. I was like, that's not true at all. This is not the retelling of actual events. This is a very
just lying
reality. Yeah,
that's what's so bizarre is the claim of gaslighting. After I heard her make that claim, I went back and I watched our entire episode on that, just because I like to make sure that, I'm trying to be as charitable as possible, because my goal is to change minds, not drag people, although, we're at that point. But, my goal is to always make sure that I'm coming from a place of love and understanding regardless. And I watched our entire episode, and I thought we were incredibly kind, almost patronizingly kind with the amount of kid gloves we had on. And then listening to your interview with Laverne Cox, it felt so validating to hear her say that you all approached the situation with love, because that's genuinely how I felt. And perhaps she didn't take it that way, but I came to her as a friend who has known her for years. And I tried to explain to her my position and the position of other people, because I would expect her to do the same to me. I would expect you, Ole, to come to me if I said something sexist and say, Mike, this is where you fucked up, because I don't have that lived experience. So as somebody with trans family, specifically a non-binary person where in my family where inclusive language is important, I would have expected at least a little bit more introspection. But the fact that I didn't get that is really frustrating to me, right? Because this is somebody.
Just quickly, here was the
How's it going? Welcome to the Vanguard. So glad to be joined by you once again.
Hey y'all. Hey y'all. Yeah, so I seen this. It was sent to me. This is not the first wild ass banana piece of shit take she's had since the time of. Every time I said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. And since, well, you know what? Let me say it, because fuck her. Since she always want to have my fucking name in her mouth. All right, boom. They've been for a year on some right-wing bullshit. I want to let the record reflect. These people have never been as fucking progressive as people have let them masquerade and begin to believe in the first place. But she's been on this propaganda bullshit ass takes. Her and Jenk been running this dribble for about a fucking year now. And since they came up...
Again, this is the Young Turks. I think this is referring to the fact that they did say the crime rate was high about a year ago, which was just demonstrably true. But even then, are extrapolating, because she's just saying they've been on this propaganda right-wing. It's like, Jesus.
With this bullshit, let me explain to Anna. Okay, clearly you don't understand what cisgender means suddenly, right? Oh, suddenly your brain don't fucking work. But maybe you don't understand what gaslight means, because I think you have it misconstrued. Gaslighting would be making an entire platform where you recognize where you, Miss Mamas, verbatim went on your platform repeatedly and said you recognize these talking points as right-wing bullshit, non-issues. No one is calling you a pregnant person. You ain't been able to identify this imaginary person that called you a pregnant person fucking yet. You said that. And then perpetrated like you don't fucking remember you said that when you decided to come out and now adopt those right-wing talking points, because for whatever reason
I think she said several times her views have changed on some of this stuff, and she's broken on some of it.
You hit a glass ceiling on the left, whatever you think is looking for you out there on the right, you want to, that's where you want to be. So now all of a sudden you are adopting those talking points and you mad at the rest of us because we point out that you've had a different position. No, you're gaslighting us. You are the one gaslighting us, suddenly acting like you don't fucking understand what the problem is when you were one of, according to y'all, let y'all tell it, leaders of the left, one of the main ones putting out that fucking talking point. And quite frankly, let's talk about this. You seem to not have anything to fucking do. For all this crime that's rampant around your building, bitch, put on a fucking costume and go act like a superhero and stop talking about the rest of fucking us. Because every time I look, you have my name in your mouth.
So wait, remember Anna was talking about and they're watching the fucking shit. Anna was talking about having a guy with an erection grab hold of her and start humping her. And she's shouting at her, saying that it's propaganda. Which I think is a term for propaganda for the police. Anna's literally saying she came out of the house and a group of men came and one of them's humping her with an erection, right? And this woman's not saying, "Oh, she's lying. I don't believe her. It happened." But sorry, they just wouldn't do it in any other situation. They wouldn't take a woman saying, "Oh yeah, I went out of my house and I was basically quite violently sexually assaulted," and go, "Rubbish, what you making up? Hey, if you think it's such a bad problem, why don't you go out and try and sort it out? Put on a cape, be a superhero then. Don't come on here talking about it." What? You wouldn't do that in any other circumstance.
You this, blah, 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 blah. You make bad, shitty, bullshit fucking takes every day. I literally only fucking see y'all in relation to bad fucking takes. And I don't say anything because I don't give a fuck. And quite frankly, I've said this from time. This right here was a deliberate propaganda. I said this. We had no business giving her all that fucking grace when she jumped out the window with the tweet because it was on fucking purpose. She did it because she wanted us talking about it. She did it because she wanted to ingratiate herself with the right. The reason why she wanted to piss off and go at and attack all the other leftist commentators, including people who are personal friends, like all the Emma Viglins of the world, is because she needs to create the appearance to the right wing she's trying to ingratiate herself with, that, oh, the left is, she needs to separate herself apart from us. And what better fucking way to do that than to go at everybody and to fight with everybody?
Oh my God. The extrapolation here is insane. We watched this video, right? And this is the ingratiate herself to the right. They mean the Sitchin right? Because she's not been on all these other right-wing shows. She's not been going around talking to all these people. And yet they're saying, oh, it's all part of a right-wing grift. She's ingratiating herself with the right. What? Like, all of this is getting so made up. It's crazy. Again, I think they're still responding to the point, to the part of the video where she's talking about being sexually assaulted. So, but this is it. This is the whole point, right? That people are getting so hostile to each other and so caught up in this that once you've identified, hey, I agree with almost everything you believe apart from these 2 or 3 minor points. Devil, beast, enemy, and that's it. Now she's doing a right-wing grift because she went on Sitchin which isn't even a right-wing show, and it's just like, yeah, they're like lying about her basically. But I don't think they realise they are. I don't think like she's Olurinatti is actually doing that. To actually know she's doing that. I think they just work themselves up in this frenzy. I don't think it's like I'm going to come on and lie. I think it's like, no, enemy, and now she's the devil. So now she's an enemy. Now every time you see her talking about this, she must be doing a right-wing grift. You start seeing her as completely hostile. And it just fucks any hope of a productive discourse. It fucks any hope of real change on any of these issues, right? And it's just sad because it's like the most counterproductive, stupid, obnoxious shit you could possibly be doing.
And to keep having my black ass name in your fucking mouth. Let me explain this to y'all. I don't care for all of this. Like, Anna, let me.
How often has she mentioned Olurinatti?
The only reason why anybody even mentioned you, because I don't even think you matter. I don't even give a fuck about your white-centered view in the world. And also because you keep I'm Armenian, but they keep saying I'm white passing. Whiteness is a construct. Maybe you should read a fucking book before you present like you're the queen of the fucking leftist liberal movement. It's a construct. Am I looking at a white blonde woman? Is that how you walking through the earth? White lady. And oh, now you want to act like, oh, they're the ones that are racist because they assumed when I started peddling propaganda that I was talking about black people. So y'all are the racists, and that really what's really bothers me. Girl, get the fuck out of here. You know what the fuck you doing all in Newsweek talking shit. Okay? You and Jenk are both full of fucking shit, and y'all need to hush your fucking mouths because I'm over it. That is what I got to say about that.
Yeah. No, I totally feel you, Ole. And what's crazy to me about this is that she's acting like this backlash she got from folks like yourself when she had certain, reactionary positions that she has. She acting like she got fucking canceled, like the mob came after her. What I remember is people, including yourself, offering politely to debate, to discuss, to come on her show, to educate.
Really? Come on, bro. You've been on the internet. That's not how it even works anytime. I get like 1 billion or what, like people that say crazy stuff to me on Twitter every day, saying I'm evil. I mean, it's funny. It's funny to me. I love it. But that's why I love Twitter, because it's so toxic and everybody's awful. But like, come on to the go, hey, people would just be nice. No, they would. Come on, you've seen the stuff people are saying. You've seen it. We've seen it here in the show. Like, the lack of self-awareness. She's just saying she's a right-wing grifter. She's betrayed everyone. She's a stupid white lady. Like, this conversation comes from another clip, which I will try and pull out, where they're, like, trying to, like, be understanding to Anna. And then Olurinatti, or Ole, what she was called herself, is like, oh, I feel like this is coddle a white lady hour. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, this is just so fucked.
Her to have a dialogue and a discussion with
so now they're doing a 10 minutes hate. Although, of course, it's the internet, so it's an eternity hate, where you have to hate the person forever.
Exact sort of maturity that she seems to be yearning for in this interview, and disparaging the left movement, the progressive movement, for not having. Right. It's like, I remember everyone asking you over and over again to engage on the subject matter, to have people on, to have these discussions. People on the left aren't just a bunch of sheep that all think the same thing. Of course, we have independent-minded folks that come to different conclusions, and that's why we have to hash it out and have debates, have discussions, get together, talk about things. No one just immediately jumped down her throat. People
and you know what? Maybe y'all should have. And maybe y'all should have, because I said it then. It was too much. Listen, and I went along with the coddling just because I like to stay out of drama and stuff. I don't care about these people enough. The way that I came onto the media space is because I have actual agendas and things that I care about. And I happen to exist in the same terrain with these people, but I don't give a fuck about them. I didn't know TYT at all until the day they acknowledged my appearance on Rising, which again, the irony of recognizing to celebrate me for, according to Anna, direct quote was, we need people on the left willing to aggressively call out these bad faith arguments on transphobia, right? But here she go, bad face transphobic fucking actor, right? But that's the only reason, because it was my first fucking interaction with them. I have a general premise. I'm very nice to people who are my mutuals. I don't go after them out of the way. I go like, you know what, is this necessary? Whatever. I go about my business. But from the time I had followed her and had that positive interaction with them, giving me my flowers off my Rising appearance, from that moment forward, all I saw was bad fucking propaganda takes. And I was like, you know what? I follow her, we mutuals, let me keep it nice, let me do it a little, like, be very nice about it, which is how I ended up on TYT in the first place, doing the abolition debate, they called it, which was only supposed to be a discussion, but it's a debate when Cenk is trying to jump down your fucking throat, right? They bring you on because they're not familiar with a school of thought in and of itself, but yet they're on there trying to debate you and challenge you and denigrate the entire movement that they...
Oh my God. Someone debating you isn't like denigrating your entire fucking thing. Like, but this is how these people think. It's like, you're questioning me! You're questioning what I believe. It's so frustrating and infuriating to just see the lack of self-awareness. It's like, everyone's always screaming at me and everyone's always saying, no, I'm wrong, and they want to debate me and you want to do this. It's like, maybe some of the things you're saying are a bit mad, and maybe you're putting them forward in a way that comes across as a little obnoxious. Maybe you should be introspective and think about that yourself.
Already made it clear to you on wax that they don't understand interaction with them. So then earlier this year, when she came out with her transphobic bullshit, again, I still didn't call her out by name. I addressed like I always do with my audience. Let the record reflect, to this day, all the leftist mafia has videos on this Anna situation. I do not. I have never done it, but yet she keeps calling my fucking name. So what happened was, I have never addressed no Ana Kasparian by myself. Then we on leftist mafia, where I don't choose the fucking topics. I don't choose what we talk about. Do you think I would be talking about Anna on my show? Have y'all ever seen it? Y'all seen a white folk on my show? You heard me talking about it? No. So on leftist mafia, they're talking about it. If I'm getting waterboarded for an hour and a fucking half about everybody doing nimble gymnastics, trying to figure out how to fucking bend over backwards to excuse and save the white woman from the consequences of her own fucking actions, I was like, yeah, dog, I like her too, but hey, we don't feel like we're doing a little fucking match. All right, that's it. From saying I'm doing a little, saying you doing.
Why does she keep bringing up a race, right? Because none of this is related to Anna being white, right? None of it, right? It's you're talking about what, she had some trans takes. This is what we mean about what the fuck has Anna's race got to do with this? Some stuff about policing, which again, as Anna said, she was sexually assaulted by a group of white guys. And that was what made her think, shit, there's a real problem with crime. So, the fuck's even that got to do with race? It's none of this has anything to do with race. And she's like, yeah, because this white girl wants to do, and it's yeah, this is why people get cross with you. This is why it comes across as obnoxious. Because it's we're not having a debate. We're having a debate about racism, right? And then she was doing that. I still think it's counterproductive. I still think it's a bit silly, but fair play. Okay, if you're a black woman, there's a white woman saying all the shit about race. Well, look, you don't know anything. You're a white woman. You don't know what it's like to be me. You don't know what it's like for black people, blah, blah. Okay. Fair play. Right, but we're going to have a discussion about, is she a transphobe for having a couple of takes that are different from the mainstream narrative on the left? Does that make her transphobe? Does that make her right-winger? Where are we getting this, why do you keep bringing up this white woman, this white bitch? Well, it's not got to do with anything. You are just kind of being racist in a way, right? I want to be clear, because I think people sometimes on the left get confused. Interpersonal racism and systemic racism are different. Systemic racism, even if nobody had racist views, would still always produce racist outcomes, right? In the UK where I live, right, you're much more likely to be working class, you're much more likely to be in poverty if you're non-white, right? That's systemic racism. You're about 20 times more likely to be stopped and searched by the police. That's systemic racism, right? Right, and I agree, right, that's not being suffered by white people. That's something that's being suffered by ethnic minorities, right? That's never going to be the majority group that's going to get the systemic racism. Actually, even then, that's not strictly true, because in South Africa, black people are a majority. And what even now, right, you go to South Africa, 25, 30 years after apartheid, and you still see white people living in big houses by the sea and black people living in terrible poverty. So, once the system's racist, it can take a long time to undo it. So even that's not necessarily true. A majority could. But yeah, white people don't get systemic racism. However, you can be interpersonally racist, right? You can have something that's got nothing to do with race and just keep calling a white bitch and bringing up the fact that she's white. And it's like, that's kind of racism. Is that the same as if Anna was doing it to her? No, it isn't as bad. It isn't as bad, right? Because, there just is a difference in society, right? And it's to do with connotations. It's to do with the history of it. Still, to constantly bring it up, constantly, white bitch. Yeah, you're just being racist. That is racism, I'm sorry. Right? We're not talking about whiteness. We're not talking about race. We're talking about a woman who happens to be white. And you keep calling her white bitch. Even when, bear in mind, as she's said in this, both parents are immigrants from the Middle East or Central Asia. What would you count Armenia as? Either way, it's not she had the super white experience even because she's an immigrant. Immigrant didn't speak English until she was young, etc. I don't know what the wealth was like, but so even then she's not had completely the super privileged experience even. The woman, Olurinatti, whatever, she does sound like she's from maybe the Caribbean, so she probably also isn't from an immigrant background. So I'm not saying, Anna wins or something. I'm just saying, why the fuck do you need to constantly keep calling a white bitch?
A little much. This white lady sits on that for 3 weeks, decides to bother me in the dead of fucking night. I gave her a warning. I didn't even know what the fuck she was talking about. I asked her a question mark. She decides, she wanted it? You want the smoke? You want it with me? And I thought I made it fucking clear that I'm not the one, but she keeps it up because she wants us to respond to it. She wants us to go off. And I've already come to the position at this point. I have let it rock under, no drama. I'm not going to say nothing to people. I don't live react. I don't because I don't even want the smoke. Because quite frankly, I be trying to save people from me. You think you want it with me, but you really fucking don't. Okay. So I said, all right. But you know what? She will keep doing it. Every time I fucking look, there's a video. Ole this, leftist mafia this, leftist mafia this, leftist mafia that. Oh my God. Wrap it fucking up.
I was looking for a lot of stuff on Ana Kasparian and what she said. And I'm sorry, it just isn't true. She said a few things that break with the standard mainstream left thing. But again, they're all exaggerating. She's not some right-wing grifter. She's going to be alt-right soon.
So that's where I'm at with her. I'm sick of them. TYT's full of shit. And I think we should learn something what I said from jump. Be more skeptical of people just because they call themselves the fucking king and queen of the left. Just because they say they're the left. But every fucking thing on their mouth seems to be some right-wing pandering, grifting shit.
Really,
all they ever want to do is criticize the left. Why do you even know these fucking right-wing outlets to be able to be on there being chummy like this? What are you doing, broad? So no, she's full of shit. I'm tired of it. I'm not even keeping it cute no more. Fuck them. Fuck all of this. This is nonsense. She needs to stop it because then she's gonna play victim. Then it's you mean people who demand that you cook your friends? The myth. She's such a. What I hate about it is it's so crazy watching somebody lie when the shit is on video. It's you lying in 4K. Didn't nobody say that shit to you? But even if I had said that, first of all, I would never demand that. I never demanded that anybody cook their friends. I said, if y'all are going to go out of your way to fucking make it the topic, let's not waterboard everybody with an hour and a half and all this. Y'all making it the top. You could easily just not talk about it. If I had a friend that was making bullshit fucking comments and I didn't want to talk about it publicly, I wouldn't talk about them publicly and go talk about them in private. That was my position. I'm cooking her. The big bad black woman is fucking lazy attacked me. I'm being gaslit. Poor. Woe is me and all of the crime. Oh my God. I'm sick of a whole lot of what we got in this leftist internet space. We have a lot of bullshit in the space, and I don't never say nothing, but I'm gonna say it now. She's full of shit. She's full of shit. Her fucking her partner in crime, he's full of shit, and everybody else rolling like them, full of shit. And I just want to say to everybody that I told months ago that this was a part of a deliberate grift to the right, this was a part of the why I left the left pipeline. Are you looking at it, right? Okay, so I just want to say, Alimi fucking told y'all so. I told you so. I told you so. You don't have to like me, but a bitch is right.
Yeah. I think I would beg to differ on that. Right, okay. So, yeah, I wanted to find the original shit she said, but I think that was pretty revealing. Okay, so let's watch this. I don't know if we're going to watch 100%
extremely intelligent.
of it, but,
Anna and Jank, they've been in the game way longer than any of us, right? I've been watching TYT since 2008, before Obama was elected. They know that the things they say are going to be interpreted and used in certain ways. And the fact that they have chosen to do that means that I can no longer simply chalk this up to ignorance or them being mad that we corrected them and that the leftists on Twitter, Lance, decided to call him out or call them out. You know what I mean? Like, this is deliberate, and they know what they're doing. They're intelligent, they're grown-ups, they're savvy. So the fact that they've chosen to go down this path means that people have a right to be angry. People have been...
We've gone down a path of making some minor disagreements. Like, we literally just saw Anna on the podcast that you say is the right-wing press tour, right? Where most of what she's saying is like universal healthcare, more housing, stop, repeal Citizens United, right, end campaign finance, all of this kind of stuff, like, all super left-wing stuff. Just, please don't call me like woman with the cervix. I was nearly raped outside my house, so I do think crime's real. I'm not sure puberty blockers are the best for kids. And I say, no, you know what she's doing. She knows what she's doing. She's attacking the left. She's an enemy. This is exactly what she was talking about. Now she's an enemy, right? And it's like, if you're all attacking her, if you're all constantly going, like, her job is to come on and speak about news and stuff. If news is happening to her, she's going to talk about it. Like, what do you expect? You're all going to say this crazy shit to her, right? Like on the last one, just keep calling her a white bitch and stuff. And think that she's not going to speak about it.
Watching the show for a long time and to feel like they've been betrayed, that's a human response to this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's always been my position, right? Is that this is deliberate. That's the thing. What my initial position was, and I said it. I said, "Oh, I like Anna. It's not nothing to do with Anna." But first of all, since we're having the conversation, which I didn't bring to the table, I'm not the reason I didn't bring it up on Leftist Mafia, right? We're having this conversation. It's about an hour. It's about an hour or something into that video before I'm like, my God. You know what I mean? Like, we are definitely coddling her, and we're making this about defending her, which I think is a very like paternalistic desire in the way that like white women are held up as something to like take care of and to protect, right? This like delicate white woman type of behavior.
Jesus Christ. This is the problem when people conflate things and they get something that like is true in certain circumstances. Like, there was an element of like the way racism's been used, where it's all, protect the white women. You see it a little bit with some of the TERF stuff, where there's like a few TERFs going who are like very privileged, protect us from the trans, which is kind of a similar thing. But I'm sorry, at no point have people been saying, hey, people are getting a bit crazy on Anna, be coddled a white woman. She's a fucking journalist. She does news, right? The only thing she needs coddling, right? We just think that the way you're treating her and the way you're being with her, because she disagreed with a couple of things, is ridiculous and obnoxious. Like, that's kind of the point. And that it's massively counterproductive. It's not about coddling Anna. It's about the tactics that get used by large sections of like online communities, right? Are ridiculous, where you agree with everything or you're now the devil. This especially seems to be a problem in the online left, where you either agree wholeheartedly with like the whole thing, the whole shebang, or you are an enemy and you must be destroyed. And if we even say, hey, I don't think she's that bad. Oh, you're coddling the white woman. Oh, I see, because she's white. Like, no, to be fair, even if people are coming out against Olurinatti, whatever she's called, and Ole, whatever, saying all this crazy shit, because she'd broken with the left a bit, and said, like, not broken with left, she'd said two things that don't agree with the mainstream view. You know what? I'd be out here going, okay, I don't agree with her on other stuff, but people are being crazy to her. That's not coddling the black woman. Right? That's just, hey, people are being a bit crazy here. They shouldn't be.
Here. But I said it then that the thing that was ridiculous to me, it was always intentional. She knew, we all know, we know our lane of the internet. We know what you say, don't say. We know what's going to elicit certain responses, blah, 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 blah. She knew from day one that comment would get that kind of reaction, and she intended it to. That's why I said it didn't make sense for us to be spending all this energy coddling her, because she wanted this reaction. This has always been, my position was always that this is obviously a part of a larger pivot. It always was. It was very clear. declare. She needs, because the reason why it's not us bringing this up, it was, I don't even know when it was. I think it was months ago now when this happened, right? She's decided to go on this right-wing little press run, doing all of this, calling our names and blah, 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 blah. She's the one
a right-wing press run. Again, she went on Stitch and
throwing her friends under the bus, doing Emma Vigeland and all these different people bad, right? She's the one, and it's because she needs that. She wants the narrative. You see, from the very beginning, from it first started happening, of her coming after me on Twitter or her tweeting with the right, her position was always making it look at how the left is. They dogpile, you know what I mean, and blah blah blah, because she wanted to create the narrative that she's seen play out a million times before of why the left. Oh, the left is this, blah 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 blah. So she needed to create the perception that look at all these commentators, all these everybody coming after me. And when it didn't, because everybody was so charitable, all the people in her lane, all of everybody else, what did she need to do? She needed to strum up that controversy, that kind of fight, to paint it to the right. That's why she waited 3 weeks to come on a completely innocuous tweet that I made about Angel Reese, completely unrelated to her, and started this. And from the beginning, she has been, and listen, it's not a mistake, it's not an accident, it's not getting it. She's a liar. She's a fucking liar. And she's a liar in 4K. All of these things are recorded. From her initial saying to me, oh, like the kind of people who demand you cook your friends. First of all, that never happened. What I said was, you came, there's no reason for us to be coddling you because you wanted to be cooked. You asked Twitter to cook you on purpose. You'd have that tweet still up. You've doubled down on this position. So this is clearly the reaction you wanted. I said you wanted to be cooked. I never said cook your friends, but let's pretend I did. Let's pretend that's what happened. Me, a person who has no personal relationship with you and who is not your homegirl by any means, shape, or form. I know you on the internet. I've had maybe less than a handful of Twitter interactions with you. I've appeared on your show where you and your co-host have disrespected the fuck out of me. I've still been very nice to y'all. That would, my crime, it would be so egregious. You would consider that offensive to you, that if I were to say, oh, cook her. Meanwhile, you're dragging your own friends and colleagues, dragging them through the fucking mud, disrespecting them, lying on what they're saying, mischaracterizing them, feeding them to right-wing hate. Who's real fucked up here? Even if we were going on the friendship analysis, like she tried, because that's how she tried to paint this originally. Like some kind of betrayal was like how she tried to present it, as though the rest of the show, the white people, are her friends, her personal friends, and they...
Okay, here's the bit of what she actually said at the time. Here, I found that. So, this is what...
her to change her mind and to understand what she did wrong. Because if without that context, like, again, that's why it's important, if you know her, that you do include that context. Because she has to understand these disagreements are coming from an honest place, and we're not just doing it for clicks, right? Like that's so.
No, of course,
but that's not the same. That's not the same, though. That's not the same.
I have to say it. Oh my god, I have to say it. I like Anna, but I feel a little bit like this is the coddle the white lady hour. And you know why? And you know why I thought this even earlier, because before this, the Majority Report put out a thing too, and everybody else, and I was like, boy, everybody sure feels the need to trip over their fucking feet to come out to defend her for getting cooked when all of the people get cooked all the time. I have yet to watch a video of anybody defending me from getting fucking cooked. I've never seen it. I've never seen everybody come out. She has a lot of fucking bad takes, and then she gets cooked because she comes out unprovoked. She asked to be cooked. She got up today and she said, Twitter, cook me.
Right. Listen,
She has yet to delete the tweet. I want to make it clear. She has yet to delete the fucking tweet.
Wait, hold on. Saying she was asking for it is pretty much the same people should do it, right? I mean, I suppose it's not exactly the same, but she's been a bit fucking disingenuous when she's saying, I never said she should be cooked. You're like, oh, she's asking for it. She's saying cook me. She's screaming for it.
You know why? Because at the end of the day, she took a 106,000 like tweet. She didn't even get ratioed. She didn't even get ratioed. She'll be all right. All right? She didn't get like, oh my God.
I saw that Majority Report video that went up. It's exactly what Emma said on the show earlier today. And when I heard Emma say it, I was like, Emma put it great. And then I saw them put it up with the title that says Ana Kasparian is not anti-trans. I'm like, that's not the point. Why are you putting that as the title of the video? That's not the point.
This is where
the concern.
It was an anti-trans take.
The substance of the viewpoint she is legitimized. You see what I'm saying? The conversation has just shifted to defend. Like everybody's conversation is about defending whether or not Anna is a turf and her career and blah blah blah, rather than talking about the substance of what she put out and why that is offensive to legitimize and why it's a problem for
and being held responsible for it.
Thank
like,
you.
Like
That's the problem.
normalize large creators being called out and being like, oh shit, I was wrong. Like,
just because people are getting screamed at, okay, doesn't mean that they should change their mind. And also, it's very disingenuous to say she wasn't saying she should be cooked. She should be cooked. She was saying, oh, she was asking for it. She was asking for it.
We're all on her side, and the big bad black woman has decided it was trying to convince her friends to bully her. None of that is true, but it was deliberate.
I think people were saying there was a massive dog battle.
Everybody you know on the internet that does their right wing grift or whatever it is, or they start going this way, they find some black woman on the internet to feed.
She is. I'm not. So basically, she is kind of like a lefty content creator who was, I think, on the Young Turks, did some stuff with them, and then her and Lance and the Humanist Report have gone on this like quite big attack on her, which has been part of a wider attack on Anna over some of her takes. Yeah. So basically, this woman's attacking her. Lance is attacking her. All the people are coming out, kind of proving what she said, right? Like, she went on Sitch and Adam, they're calling her a right winger, right? And that's that's basically what's been happening. Yeah. So anyway, hi Luxury. Don't forget to follow the stream.
To the fucking wolves. They do it all the time. I could think of a million of them, but there's no point me bringing up the names and causing any more commotion around that. But they do that. And that's clearly what she's wanted to do to me. And I find that, I was talking to Lance about this earlier. It says something to me, the way that everybody jumped out the fucking window to defend a 40-year-old woman with one of the largest fucking platforms in leftist independent media, with all the money in the world, but nobody is cared about the 29-year-old black girl that she keeps fucking trying to feed the name to the right? Let's pretend. So it's so bad that you were criticized for a take you put out on the internet. She's literally actively serving me to the right, like intentionally continuing to do this, hoping that it mobilizes this kind of hate towards me, right? Like, let's be real. Ana Kasparian has, again, like,
to the right. Like, again, how many right watching Ana Kasparian? We literally just watched her opinions of what she said, and they're clearly left wing, apart from these two little points she made about trans issues. And it's like, no, she's exposing you to the right. Also, you're on Twitter, you're online. The right are gonna, like, surely you're gonna debate right people. Right people are gonna come after you. You know, people from all angles come after me because I'm a fucking liberal, so everybody hates me. But you know what I mean? It's like.
Million subscribers or something on YouTube, no? Right? Like, would she have like 500,000 followers on Twitter or whatever it is? So you are actively you put out this tweet that she put out, the initial tweet had over 100,000 likes. It had thousands of people criticizing her, quote tweeting her, blah, 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 blah. Me, by the way, was not one of those people. Let's let the record reflect. I never quote tweeted. I never said nothing to her on Twitter. I never commented. I never anything. I sat on the show with my other co-hosts who brought up a topic and they were talking about it, and I shared the same exact sentiments as them. So why me? Why, of all the people in this arena, why me singled out even from the jump of leftist mafia?
Because everyone else, at least on that like podcast, was like, well, and the kind of stuff. You like, fuck her. She deserves to cook. Like, she's become right wing. It's because she will say the most extreme stuff. I would expect that. If I went on and I went off on someone harder than anyone else was on something, I'd expect them to remember that it was me that was doing that, right?
Why? And I'm like, this has always been that. It's very clear to me, and I think it's interesting, and it's very telling the way that has that angle of it, and just the fact that it, even in us talking about, it's not just that she's a full turf. She's also spewing a whole bunch of propaganda, racist foolishness, microaggressions, and all these different things, and even the try to indictment of saying I called her a racist. That never happened. That simply had never happened. That never happened. I didn't even call her a turf or anything like that. I said on the show, I think we are focusing on this and coddling her instead of having a conversation about the substantive problem with her comments. I never even was trying to talk about her. So that's one. And Lord Weed.
Well, I did have a quick point that I wanted to say.
Thank you, go.
Both of you are bringing up. Yeah. The fact that you're both mentioning, and I completely agree with this, that there is this whole kind of like, you were given so much good faith criticism from people who kept coming from like, this is coming from a place of love, we're colleagues, we respect you and all this kind of stuff. What were the two, I guess, transphobic takes that became quite popular that she's done since? One of them is saying that Jesse Singal is misunderstood, which is just wild because Jesse Singal is such a transphobe that he's got his own article in GLAAD. You know, like Jesse Singal at this point is a well-documented person pushing.
I don't agree with Singal, but I don't think he's a transphobe at the same time. Right? I don't think he wants to take rights away from trans people. I don't think he wants trans people oppressed. I don't think he supports any of the like trans bathroom bills or any of that. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm quite happy to be wrong, but he's always like struck me as at least a fairly reasonable person, even though I disagree with some of his takes. But happy to be proven wrong if that isn't true.
An agenda. He wrote an article in The Atlantic that was basically praising someone who does conversion therapy, which I'm sure everyone understands at this point is torture. The guy is a complete asshole. He's actually potentially going to be in a lot of trouble for through HIPAA for potentially revealing sensitive patient-client doctor privileged information in his pursuit of pushing this transphobic shit. And what was the other one that just came out? She was randomly talking about. Well, she was arguing with Juniper today, who's also like a trans activist slash incredible comedian and entertainer.
will be showing up.
Yeah, who's going to be joining, I think, the show very shortly. That one was ridiculous. I'm trying to think of what her other one was. Weed.
The civil right is the civil rights. It was really the civil rights comment today. It was the civil rights comment that got me.
She found a way to both disparage the civil rights movement and be transphobic.
And that makes me remember my original comment.
That's true.
Yeah, so I did not call her. I never called her racist, and none of that is what happened at all. Now, what happened is when you attack me on Twitter and you're trying to perpetrate like you are something that you are not, and you are mobilizing hatred towards me. What I did was share a video of you saying the fucking N-word a million times. Now, if you extrapolate a compilation of you saying it to mean that, because that is what one would think about a white person who does something like that, then that's on you, baby girl. But I didn't say that about you. But more importantly, I want to say this: there's this need and this desire, like not white people or all white people, but obviously what racists in the side of the aisle like to do is you think that because you live in fear of being called a racist or something, or like you think you can like shame me, the race card, or because I'm black or something, like, I'm gonna quiver if I were to call somebody racist. If I call you racist, it's because I believe you're racist and I'll put my whole back into it. I don't give a fuck. You think that, that's to weaponize, make me a criminal on the...
No, it's not about being a criminal. It's just like, you need to be careful. Right? Like... Right, it's like you need to be careful. You can't just like throw... I don't want to say you can't just throw it around, because there's a lot of racist people in the world. Right? And they should be called racist. But I just think that also online, there is... again, like Anna said, she talked about being sexually assaulted, never mentioned the race, and people accused her of being racist, and then she was like, but they were actually white, though. I wasn't even saying about black people. Right? So you have to be careful with this thing. Ana Kasparian isn't a racist. Right? Olurinatti kind of is, in a way. Again, I don't think that anti-white stuff is anywhere near as serious, but like, he's like so much of a threat, it's so terrible. Like, she literally screaming at a white bitch, for like disagreeing with her, whilst making up a load of shit about her being a right winger and all of this. It's like, come on, for fuck's sake.
A criminal to the right, because to the right that is, how dare this black woman dare say something about you? How dare she criticize you or call you that? And also, I will say this, and I said it earlier on the Answer Show, I had never called you a racist, but I'll call you one now, because I definitely, first of all, everything that has come out of your mouth in the last year that I have been privy to the work that you do, and from you and Jenk, is some racist propaganda, foolishness, some absolutely destructive bullshit. That's one. But two,
what fucking racist propaganda has come out of the Young Turks? I'm sorry, it's like the Young Turks, which is one of the most left-wing, like, major, like, online news network things. Right? There's plenty of other, like, little lefty podcasts. They've been going for years with their news network, with all of this. Like, to start putting forward, like, oh no, it's just non-stop racist propaganda. Like, on the Young Turks. Like, really? This is, I think, based around the fact that, like Anna said, that they acknowledged, after she was, like, nearly raped outside her own house, that, like, crime was an issue. And again, like Anna said, it's very telling that immediately go, it's racist propaganda. You're like, do you think it's all black people doing the crime? Well, what even makes you think, why are you assuming that? Like, it kind of makes you, I mean, obviously, she's not racist, but I'm just saying, kind of makes some of those people look a bit racist.
you think it's lost upon me that you singled out the black woman here? Like, you think I think that is a mistake? You think I think that a white woman that used her platform to be just doing all of these things and saying whatever and saying the N-word on wax, you think I think you're not?
So I don't have a problem with that. You could tell him I said you're racist. I think you're racist. I think you're a transphobe. I think you're disingenuous. I think you have no integrity. And I think your show is whack. So.
Well, in that Leftist Mafia episode, so there was a moment in particular where you were analogizing and you brought up race specifically to use your lived experience to communicate it in terms of like the trans issue. And I do the same thing as like a gay person because that's my lived experience. So it's the way. And like somebody in the chat said, "Oh, Ole's bringing up race," and you explained why that is the case. That's the only mention of race in the entire video. So it doesn't even make sense to claim that you called her racist.
She's literally just lying.
Yeah, and furthermore, in terms of like cooking your friends, like when she says that you told you wanted, what was it that she said to you that you were demanding?
Kind she said, "Oh, Ole, the kind of hater who demands you cook your friends."
Oh yeah, it was something like that. When it's like I would assume that she's mostly talking to me and David because me and David were like the closest. Over the last couple of years with her, right? We bonded over like 2020 and other bullshit, other, left wingers, ironically, that kind of shifted to the right and their attacks, Jimmy Dore. But like I would have been in that instance, the one who was being asked to cook my friend. Not a single instant that I think that Ole was demanding that I cook my friend. And even if you did, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's so, here's the way that I interpret that. It was you just can't hear criticism. You take things and you hyperbolize it and you make it into something that it's not because
it seems like these guys can't take criticism. It's like somebody disagrees with you mildly, you go off on them, you go crazy, and then you accuse them of being a right-wing grifter, you're accusing them of all the stuff. The Olurinatti is like screaming white bitch, you fucking blah blah. And then you're like, and I think that these people, they're just, they can't handle any kind of criticism. It's like, really? Like, how this is the problem with a lot of, like, the online leftists, is that they're just so, unself-aware that they don't understand how they come off. They don't understand how they're acting. And this is why you get stuff, like Anna was saying, where people feel like they just can't support it anymore. Like, people feel like, no, it's not even they can't support it anymore. You're very left-wing people who are like, I disagree on these couple of things, get completely attacked and trounced by a lot of the online lefties. And then people are just like, well, okay, then what do I mean, what do I even do? I mean, now it seems like the left are just like, the online left are crazy. But again, it's the same thing of like, you have to agree with everything. It seems to be happening on the left and right. We have to agree with everything. We have to agree with every little thing. And when you don't, we're going to come after you. And if you don't immediately go, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm such a piece of shit. How could I have ever said that? Oh my God." And you're like, "Hey, why are you all coming after me? This is a bit crazy." Then next thing you know, "Oh, you can't take criticism. Oh, typical white bitch can't handle criticism." You know what I mean?
And look, the fact that if my friends were all criticizing me, I would be upset. But having said that, though, again, we used the fucking kid glove. Like, we had 2 pairs of kid gloves on. Yeah. So it's not like we were trying to be malicious at all. And I feel confident about that now after rewatching it. Because that was what I always try to be introspective and think, okay, from somebody else's perspective, maybe I was a little bit too harsh. No, I don't think that we were. I think we were perfectly fair. And if anything, what really is a good gauge of how well we did was that we had Kenny on in that podcast, and this was an outside voice who didn't even know who Ana Kasparian was. So without that context, she just saw the tweet in a vacuum. And even she said, this is bad. This is why people interpret that as transphobic. So to have people who are close to you and an outsider's voice tell you that you're doing wrong, and the only takeaway is that you feel attacked, but only by Ole, it's outrageous to me. And it's so frustrating because, again, we've all been in these predicaments where we have been bad allies, right? I'm a gay guy, but I'm a cis white guy. I have had trans people tell me, "Mike, not a good look." And I explained this in that same fucking video where I'm like, I was misgendering Kim Iverson, no sense in using a moniker. And trans people were like, "Mike, we don't want to normalize any misgendering, okay? You're not making the point that we want you to make." I had to apologize. Lance, I heard him talk about how he made a joke, a trans joke. It was a little bit edgy, and people were like, "Hey, you can't make that joke." We've all had to eat shit.
Yeah,
it's an
I've been dragged.
community.
Twitter has packed me up multiple times this year, like 3 times this year. This year.
Right.
And I this year. And like people, listen, people criticize me and people like I like, you know what I mean? Like in fairness, like all the time. Like when the Blair stuff was happening, I was on a Demon Mama stream where Demon Mama said, okay, I have to criticize Olay a little bit here or whatever, and she did. And it was fine. And I was on the stream, it was like, it happens. You know what I mean? It's going to be like, if it's not there blowing down and no one blew down on her. But quite frankly, like I said from jump, honestly, I wish we fucking had. Like if we were going to be if I was going to be the foil, I wish I'd laid into her from jump. Like, you know what I mean? Like gonna be the part of this silly plot. And that is the thing about it. And she is the one talking about it. And also what she was doing from jump, even when she responded to me and all of this, when she because attention, this has never been about it. She's talking past us. She's talking to the right. We are literally just a means to an end. We're little, pieces on a board for her. When she started this, when she's like, I am a woman, period, no apologies. When have I ever said she wasn't? When has that ever been the conversation? Not never. The conversation has always been, and she knows it. She's not she can hear. She hears us. Okay. She knows what the fuck we're saying. She's responding to it and cursing people out. So it's not like she's not seeing what people have to say. She sees it. She knows. And again, she's on record having recognized the positions before. You know what it is. You know what it is.
She
the point
changed
is not
the
that
position and then everyone went mental with
you
that.
aren't a woman or that you can't call yourself a woman. The point is that no one was ever fucking stopping you from doing it, but you were pretending you were taking a bullshit made up right-wing talking point that trans people are in some way trying to fucking suppress or stop your womanhood or allow you to call yourself that.
No, she wasn't. She said, I just think the term birthing person and stuff like that is silly. I think blah, blah, blah. Like this is what I mean. You can't tell the difference between a lefty making a minor disagreement over something and somebody doing the right-wing talking points. And again, it's because it's this mentality. Agree with everything or you are our enemy. And we'll gradually keep putting more and more onto you. So that now you're a racist apparently as well for... Which again, seems to just be because she said, yeah, there is actually crime. Which makes me think, what in your mind is happening to make you link that to race? Right. That's something I'm doing. I'm like, okay, so there's probably like, you've got to look at poverty, you've got to look at, policing, about how these things are done, criminal justice system, the fact it doesn't reform people. At no point am I going, crime, race. I mean, I know, obviously, because of poverty, because of a lot of these like systemic problems, yeah, if you're in an ethnic minority community, you can often, especially in America, you can often be more likely to be involved in crime. I think in Britain, with knife crime, 80% of it was happening with young black men. So sure, yeah, there are these like systemic issues which can like lead minority people into like situations where there's more crime in those communities. But at no point, if we're talking about crime, am I just sitting there thinking, yeah, it's a race thing. I think like sometimes there can be like, yeah, there's an issue at the moment with like a lot of high crime rate in America. America has a really high crime rate. At no point am I referring to any kind of racial stuff when I say that. And that's the closest thing. Because what else has she said? What else has she said? But this is where the racist bit comes in. And now they're saying she's racist for saying that. Anyway.
Blah, 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 blah. And you create a non-issue in order to fuel and galvanize more hate towards this group of people. That is the fucking issue. She knows it's the fucking issue. And it's so crazy for her to say, we're gaslighting her when she's the one gaslighting us. All I ever did, my response to Anna was this with a video of her saying it.
Right.
What? Man.
Yeah, it's all oppression simulation.
That's not gaslighting.
Like, honestly, every part of this is oppression simulation. These aren't real problems. The newest one that she's still got up to, now she deleted a whole bunch of tweets. She deleted the civil rights tweet and all that shit. But she has one that's still up right now talking about how, hey, did you know that there's a phenomenon? There's this British LGBTQ plus organization that is demanding we remove the term vagina and replace it with the term bonus hole. And did you know that this is a real problem? And I'm like, none of this shit is real. This happened in 2020. It happened 3 fucking years ago.
Well, the bonus hole thing, I think, started as a joke online, and then people started saying it more and more. And I think that maybe spooked some people. To be fair, I've not heard it that much. Again, like I said, I don't think it's so much of an issue. I just think if people's like, hey, I don't think you should use the term bonus hole. I go, well, that's probably that's not really used that much. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. And go, oh, transphobe, enemy. Oh, she's a right-wing grifter. right? It's the reaction you even have to these things. Even assuming you have the views you have, it's the reactions.
And just because one random LGBTQ plus org, does a thing way off in Britain, doesn't mean the totality of what civil rights are asking for is like, well, you have to now use bonus hole or nothing, or you're a bigot. Like these aren't real things. It's not real oppression. It's not a real problem. All of it is made up.
And again, she knows that taking these limited, taking an anecdote and using that to extrapolate and make broader generalizations, this is what the right does. This is harmful. And the reason why so many people are calling her out is because she has a massive, massive platform. And here's why I think it's necessary to call it out, right? People can accuse me of trying to do drama and clickbait, but here's what I think at the end of the day. This is arguably as, if not more, damaging than the transphobia that we see from right-wing outlets. Because if a liberal person listens to the Daily Wire and they see transphobia, that's expected. They dismiss it. But to a liberal person, TYT has legitimacy. And so if they think, well, TYT said that, trans activists are wrong here, maybe they're also wrong there. What else have I gotten wrong? It basically opens the door to broader transphobia, and this is what these
This is mental. This is mental. Like, so yeah, if you disagree on like one minor tiny thing in a effing tweet, right? And then what if somebody else sees that and goes, oh, well, if TYT's saying it, that means they hate trans people. Maybe I should hate trans people too. What? Hey, I don't think birthing person's a good term. I don't think that's sensible to do. Oh, well then maybe all those states in America where they're making it illegal for even adults to transition are right then. Like, when's that ever happened? When's that ever happened? This is how they think. Oh, don't agree with one thing, you're an enemy. And then you're an enemy, you're dangerous. It's dangerous to ever even have counter ideas out there, ever. It's painful to watch some of this stuff.
Try to do, right? They try to find areas, little weaknesses where they can get into your brain and they plant that seed, and that's all that they need. And so for TYT to do this, that's really, that's damage.
They get in your brain and plant these people don't even understand how propaganda works, how anything works. Thing is, I'd like to say they're being a bit hysterical. I don't even think that they are. I think what's just happened is that they've just come out against her because she's violated one of the tenets of the belief system, and now they're trying to find all these ways to justify it. Oh, what if reading that? Reading Anna being like, hey, don't call me a birthing person, and also I think the jury's out on pubic blockers for kids. But then that lays like a little egg in the head, and then a little transphobic parasite comes out, and it sucks onto the brain like one of those isopods that go on the fish's tongue, and it hooks into the brain and turns them into a right-wing transphobe. What if that happens? These people are fucking nuts.
They have 5 million subscribers and growing. And furthermore, and this is why this is all intentional now. I'm no longer of the mindset that this is feigning ignorance. I had to fight past that cognitive dissonance because I've been on great terms with them. I've been a network partner for 6 years. But the reason why this is all intentional is because has there been any introspection after they lost 3 LGBTQ plus contributors? So no. I left on May 1st. You all heard about that. It was a disaster for me because I lost monetization. But I couldn't co-sign beliefs that I thought were harmful to my family, to other trans people.
This is what I mean, though. Yeah, no, they didn't think that because I think that they realised that a lot of those people were part of the exact group of people that they were talking about, right? The exact group of terminally online lefties where you disagree with one thing and suddenly they're out. Seriously, if you're going to resign because of those couple of things that Anna said, right, which aren't even transphobic, they're just disagreeing with stuff. Again, oh, you're dangerous to my family, to LGBT, to me as an LGBT, but at that point, you're like when somebody I don't know makes a statement against the Israeli government, and somebody goes, oh, well, as a Jew now that's so anti-Semitic, I'm going to leave. Right? I mean, it's not exactly the same, right? Because obviously the Israeli government's bombing people. So it's definitely not the same. But I'm just saying that it's kind of like that, right? So exactly. So if I was running a company and I just said, I'm not sure. I think the jury's out on the puberty blockers. Now I'm resigning. You hate gay people. You hate LGBT, trans. You hate everybody. Then I probably wouldn't. I'd be like, I'd probably try and talk them out of it. But yeah, at the end of the day, no, that's not going to make me change my view. No, I'm not saying I won't listen to people. If somebody says, because you don't always know if you're not from a community. Someone says, hey, that's harmful. Listen, right? But it doesn't mean you have to agree. Because as here, as exactly as happening here, they could be talking bollocks.
Sandy Lobos, a non-binary TOIT contributor, left, also condemned the network. Benny Carollo, she just left and
she'll be joining
condemned
us.
the network. Yes, she'll be joining us. So when you have 3 LGBTQ plus people leave the network, specifically denouncing the transphobia, if that doesn't trigger introspection, nothing will. Nothing will, right? Because that's not your lived experience. So you've got to take it from trans people. And you got to take it from LGBTQ plus people.
This is some terminally online shit. Okay? So when people go, no, you have to listen to lived experience. Yes, you do have to try and listen to other people to understand their experience. But I don't agree with the idea that anytime anyone from a group comes and tells you something, you automatically have to listen. So, for example, if you were to speak to my mother, she will tell you that opposing Israel is anti-Semitic and a sign that you're a Nazi who hates Jews. Because that's what she believes, right? That Israel has done nothing wrong. It never has. It's lovely. It does the minimum it could possibly do to the Palestinians, given all the terrible things they do. And then if you don't support, and then if you actually disagree with that, if you condemn Israel, if you think Israel's like bordering on fascism at this point, then you are an anti-Semite. Right, I don't think you have to go, well, I don't think if you're not Jewish, you have to go, well, I mean, I'm not Jewish. I don't know if she is or isn't an anti-Semite. How can I possibly know that? I have to listen to a lived experience. You wouldn't, because that's stupid, right? That's a ridiculous thing that she's saying, that she believes that. I love my mum, but that's a crazy view. It's a mad view on all counts, right? You just have to listen just because someone says something.
Same way that we have to take it from the communities with this lived experience. So if Ole tells me I did something sexist, maybe I don't want to believe that, but I have to listen to her because I don't have that lived experience as a man. If Ole says what you said was racially insensitive, Mike, I have to listen to her because I don't have that lived experience. My lens of the world is very different than Ole's lens. Her experience is different from mine. This is the part of being an allyship. And we all fuck up. None of us are perfect allies. None of us are, because we don't have that lived experience. We have our subjective experiences, right? And we can never escape our own subjectivity. But when people explain to you in good faith why you fucked up, for you to double down, that is intentional. And we're not talking about dumb people. We're talking about very smart people.
Yeah, or they just disagree with you. Like, this is what I mean, right? Even if you're right, sometimes you can make your arguments to people and they don't immediately fall over and agree with you. But like, this is what I mean. It's the same thing with like Olurinatti is doing. It's the same thing as doing. It's going, no, well, if we're from a group and we tell you something, you have to just immediately go, okay. And it's like, no, you don't. You really don't. Especially when, and none of them know this. None of them have any idea about this. If we poll normies, if we poll normie LGBT people, if we poll normie black people, right, their views do not line up at all with these three or any of the other people who are going to come on later, right? They don't. So, it's fine for it's a Humanist Report, I think, saying, as an LGBT person, they should listen to me. Or we're not again, well, as a black woman, they need to immediately listen to me. It's like, yeah, but you have views that are like way to the left of most of your community. So why wouldn't you just listen to the majority at that point? Like, that's the silliest thing. Your views don't line up if we look at polling data with what the majority of people. So why would you just go, well, I have to, I'll just get more. Okay, you say that the Humanist supports LGBT, so they have to, I'm not sure if they're just gay or trans, non-binary, or whatever, no idea, misgender or anything. Right, you can't just say because I'll get a load of just normie offline like LGBT people to come and go. Okay, well that's not really what we believe. So then who wins? But by the way, I've seen TERFs do the same thing. Literally, when I'm arguing TERFs, I'm a woman. You have to listen to me when women are telling you that we're afraid of going to the toilet in case a trans woman's there. No, yeah, and like, no, I don't listen to them. I think they're talking bollocks as well, right? It's also bollocks, right? Just because someone's from a group doesn't automatically mean, oh, well, you know, we told you this and you didn't immediately get on your knees. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh. Then, you know, you're actually deliberately doing it. You're a right winger. You're a bigot. Oh, this is mental. This is nuts.
And I think the silly part is, or the wild part is the fact that, again, it's a concern. It's not even just double down, like, oh, you say something once and then we blow down on you, and so in your response you double down. This is now months later. You are choosing to go. If this was such a harmful thing, this was so stressful for you, if the left, if we were so dangerous to you, if we made life so miserable, if this was wasn't what you wanted, why are you deliberately, voluntarily choosing to go on press runs talking about this, calling people out by...
But she's a journalist and she thinks it's a fucking issue. That's it's a job. It's a bloody job. Why are you, a journalist, talking about this issue that's affecting your life? I wonder. I wonder. A real thinker. Let's see if we can figure it out by the end of the show.
Like, bringing this to, why do you continue to bring this back up? The original had started with her 3 weeks after a tweet, after getting ratioed to death. 3 weeks later, she comes after everybody, right? Now, this is now months later. Now you're appearing on these shows talking about it for what? For why? No one else is doing it. I just had a Laverne Cox interview. Laverne brought up Ana Kasparian, and did I jump on her? Did I anything? No, I didn't take any opportunity then to rehash this or come for Anna. I've never done it. I've never posted a video. No one is doing it. So where is it happening? I'm not leading any Ana Kasparian hate club. No, and that's what I've always said. This is a part of a deliberate play. I don't think she has ever been. I don't think this has ever been about being offended by what any of us have ever said. I think, like, not at all.
Even when you were screaming white bitch at her over
Anna's been getting shit. Powerful and important commentators than us, people with bigger platforms, all these different things. This is a ploy. This is an attention ploy. And I think, I think it was very important for us to, like, talk about it, like, vent about it very transparently. And also, though, give, the opportunity. We're going to have Soul Bunny, Juniper, and Benny join us, so they could talk about it. And honestly, from that point, I'm going to sit back and let y'all kind of handle this, my queer folk. No, honestly, I mean, listen, people love they hear things. Unfortunately, they like to give more legitimacy when a cis person says something in defense of queer people. And I think that's some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, I really think it's some bullshit. Like, you appreciate when I loosely paraphrase, like, one talking point of 19 points that queer people would actually be able to have and inform you of. And I think that's nonsense.
I really hate this as well. Like, there's an element of truth to it that, like, actually, you know what, if we want to know, like, if we want to hear about, like, gay rights, we want to hear about LGBT rights, we want to hear about trans rights, yeah, we need to talk to LGBT people. And they should probably be at the front in terms of hearing what they've got to say. But at the end of the day, like, if you're making a good point and you're, like, really good at, like, arguing in favor of something, like, I think you're a really good debater, right? Like, I think it's perfectly right for you to go and, like, debate a transphobe. Like, I debate TERFs online. I'm not saying, oh, I'm such a, but I think I'm pretty good at debating them. I like debating them on Twitter. I get into these arguments with them. And yeah, like, I'm not trans, but I understand the arguments enough to be able to argue with TERFs. I don't really agree with that. Like, I think maybe in this context, like, she has actually got quite a good point in the sense of, we're talking about supposed transphobia, maybe let a load of trans people speak instead of her just shouting about it, but
I've been celebrated many a time for, to me, the most ABC behavior in the face of transphobia. Like, I am not saying nothing scholarly you can quote. They're just being transphobic as fuck. Like, that was being wild. Like, but I'm never going to be the person that's able to best offer you truly the substantive takes on that and really talk about that. And so that's why I want all y'all here. That's why y'all got to be my, to finally appear on the show, Lance and Mike.
Can I say just one quick thing before I forget about what both of you are talking about, though? You're both mentioning really important points about why this is so dangerous. And I just want to add to what Mike said. almost every single time there's been a controversial bill, especially in a red state, that's been brought up and then discussed within some form of government, they start to use, and by they I mean right-wingers, they will use sources that are not right-wing, such as an article in the BBC, an article in the Atlantic by Jesse Singal, an article in the New York Times by a perspective that comes from the center or the left or liberals, something like that, where they can say, it's not just us saying this, look at this. Here is TYT, Progressive Network, and Ana Kasparian agreeing with us that puberty blockers are dangerous for kids. And that's why that's so dangerous for her to start saying that kind of shit. It's ascientific. Every major medical association in the United States agrees upon this. For you to start to fearmonger and spread that shit, it's going to be used especially against the trans community now. That's what
Absolutely.
Yeah, legitimacy is what makes what they're saying so potent, right? Because it's like, oh, it's not what Jordan Peterson says. This is a liberal person, Cenk and Anna from TYT. They're the home of progressives. If they're saying it, then there must be some credence to their claims. And it's not just like the birthing person tweet and some of the things that they're talking about. It goes back to that civil rights movement tweet that she deleted, which was a good move.
Oh, that really is really epic.
Not tweeting it would have been very good because, I mean, it's ahistorical for one, right? It's ahistorical. And on top of that, you as a cis person don't get to dictate the terms of trans activism. And that is something that you have to understand. It's not your head on the chopping block, it's theirs. I think they know pretty well how to advocate for themselves.
So that's basically what she asks.
I actually know, I don't think this is possible, by the way. You have to talk to the other side and you have to understand like how they feel. So in any movement, you kind of need to include a broad range of like people and viewpoints and experiences, not just from the minority. Otherwise, a lot of the time, you need to see how these things are playing and how they're reacting. And sometimes it is worth talking to people. Let's say we want to fight racism, right? It is actually quite a good idea to have like a group of like people of various ethnicities, right? But also to have like white people, whatever in it, so that you can say, well, okay, we can talk to the people who are super on our side and figure out, okay, how do we, like, you know, how do we build arguments? How do we work things together? How do people see this? What's actually going on? Rather than go away and talk amongst yourselves and then come back with a load of new arguments to a load of people who've never heard them before. Having not, you know what I mean? I just don't like it. I don't like the idea that, no, you can only speak about this if you're on it, right? It's like, I'm Jewish, but if somebody's not Jewish and they want to attack anti-Semitism, I'm like totally for it. That's great.
That's the worst part is she does know their heads on the chopping block. What she basically said, which is, by the way, what a sick... I mean, again, the right-wing playbook is to take MLK and use him for fuckery. But what she's saying is, in the name of respectability politics, she's saying, hey, black people, you know, sat there and got lynched and hosed down and everything or whatever, and were, you know, they took it. So they're killing you and all of that.
That's not what she was saying. That's not what she was fucking saying. She was talking about optics and like how effective the optics of like non-violent resistance were, which were brilliant because people turn on the TV and seeing people getting hosed down. They're seeing like fascist police sending dogs at them, right? For like, 2 decades. And it completely shifted public opinion. Right? It completely shifted public opinion in America, in the world, to constantly see all of this stuff happening, right?
Would you dare be uncivilized and fight back?
Like, the white
That's such a fucking mischaracterization of what she's saying.
supremacist violence is never mentioned. It's like you never hear about the lynchings, never hear about any of that. Like, I try to say things like, hey, by the way, did you know that at one point in U.S. history, black people did pick themselves up from their bootstraps, and then white people burnt Tulsa to the fucking ground. Like, there's a long history of extremist violence towards other groups, towards Native people, towards black people. But then all you hear is like, well, what about that peaceful resistance? Why can't we all?
Park.
You know, like, yes.
Central Park is built on the top of a successful black community. Literally built on top of it. There is a plaque and everything. Seneca Village, baby. Look it up. Thank you for joining me, Benny, Juniper, Soul Bunny, my loves.
Of course, thank you for inviting me.
Listen, I love to see the people who are, you know, one, giving our girl the subject of today's discussion hell on Twitter. Juniper got your ass blocked.
Yeah, that was this morning. I didn't expect that to happen this morning. I was like driving to work when I was doing that because I'm horrible. I post and drive, so I was posting and driving when that all went down. So today was a weird day. Yeah.
So, Bunny, did you get blocked? Did you end up getting blocked?
Not that I know of. I haven't
I'm
checked it in
surprised.
like 3 hours. I was
He was
surprised.
working for that block today too. and Benny, literally, woman of the hour.
Did you get blocked as well? I didn't.
No,
I
I
haven't
didn't
been
get
on.
blocked. I think we're still mutuals, actually.
No, you just got misgendered in the statement addressing your departure.
yeah, that was yeah.
Wait, that actually happened? You got misgendered?
Yeah,
Well,
no,
what-
for real. Like, it was like one of those like accidental misgenderings, like right in the beginning of like her statement. It was like a whole thing. Which, like, I mean, if we want to dive into that now, I can like talk about how like ridiculous it is that like she kind of blamed like random Twitter people for me leaving. Like, I don't have agency over myself, I can't obviously be a grown adult human woman, and obviously it was other people that made the decision for me, and not,
Meanwhile,
like,
you put out a whole video addressing it very directly.
So condescending, though.
Say that line. What'd you say?
Oh, I said that's so condescending to do, though. Just to frame it that way, as if Benny was capable of like making the decision for
addressing your departure.
yeah, that was yeah.
Wait, that actually happened? You got misgendered?
Yeah,
Well,
no,
what-
for real. Like, it was like one of those like accidental misgenderings, like right
Come on, like, I'm sorry, right, I'm gonna find that video, right?
in the beginning of like her statement. It was like a whole thing. Which, like, I mean, if we want to dive into that now, I can like talk about how like ridiculous it is that like she kind of blamed like random Twitter people for me leaving. Like, I don't have agency over myself, I can't obviously be a grown adult human woman, and obviously it was other people that made the decision for me, and not,
Meanwhile,
like,
you put out a whole video addressing it very directly.
so condescending, though.
Say that line. What'd you say?
Oh, I said that's so condescending to do, though. Just to frame it that way, as if Benny was capable of like making that decision for herself.
No, it's like a whole thing that people do with trans people, though, in general. Like, literally, so, like, I mean, I kind of talk about this a lot of the time, how, like, femininity is both, like, infantilized and sexualized, and that combination in and of itself is, like, really gross and creepy and weird. But, like, it's, like, doubly so with trans women, where, like, any sort of, like, agency, like, is just kind of, like, categorically disregarded. And it just does fit in with, like, the broader narratives that people spread about trans people that is, like, we're all being, like, tricked into it. It's other people's influence because...
Yeah, here we go.
So unfortunately, Benny has decided to leave TYT. I am definitely heartbroken over her decision to do that.
That is an accident. I'm sorry. Like, let's just watch again. Let's watch again.
Decided to leave TYT. I am definitely heartbroken over her decision to do that. Right,
it's like a fucking accident. I'm sorry. Like, the idea that Ana Kasparian now is so transphobic that she's deliberately, secretly misgendering people for like laughs live on the fucking Young Turks is mental.
Heaven forbid you have, like, not only a woman, but a woman that is, like, actively choosing femininity. Like, how dare you just go about society in a way that is, like, so much to, like, undermine patriarchy and the idea that maybe perhaps, like, I don't know, not everybody wants to choose masculinity for their lives.
It's interesting to simultaneously, like, vilify, like, villainize the trans community while...
What did even that mean? Like, that's not how being trans works. I mean, I know that person's definitely trans, but like she's definitely trans. I'm not saying that, but like, I'm sure she didn't just go, I just choose to be a woman. That's not how being trans works. Like the same reason people like why people don't choose to be gay. You don't choose to be trans. Let's go.
Also infantilizing, right? Because, they let them tell it. It's like the trans community are these big bad villains trying to, put trans ideology on you and influence your thought. But then at the same time, the trans community is somehow being manipulated by the big bad, like, cis leftists that are like, so which is it?
They try to have it both ways, and something. I mean, this isn't an original thought, but I feel like Anna engaged in this quite a bit, especially with Benny. I feel like you highlighted this really well in the video that you posted about leaving TYT, where
let's speed this up
a
a bit.
lot of these just air quote concerned like liberals or centrists
It's
when it comes
going
to
too
like
fast for
trans
people
issues
posting the chat,
they'll
I'll
refer
slow
to
it down.
trans people as trans rights activists.
Yeah.
They won't refer to us as like women or trans people. We're always just trans rights activists, and that's how Anna referred to me too when she was engaging with me in her replies to me. I don't know if like she claims she's not transphobic.
That is true, but like you can be a person can be a trans rights activist, but it is also true that TERFs use trans rights activists and conservative transphobes use trans rights activists to not say trans people. Like, it's actually amazing. So a lot of time they'll do like TRA or something, right? Or if they're even more transphobic, they'll say TIMS, trans identifying male, right? And that's what they'll do. They'll keep using that rather than acknowledge the humanity of trans people. So that is true. I have seen that. But again, it's like she disagrees on like two things. So now, no, she's a transphobe. She deliberately misgenders people. It's like the way they think, the way these people think.
Truly, I don't know. I'm leaning towards she probably is. I mean, given that she listens to Jesse Single and reads what he posts. But it's always interesting how these people that start engaging in this transphobia always start out with, oh, these trans rights activists and not trans people, you know? It's really interesting.
I mean, it's the same J.K. Rowling arc, right?
Exactly.
Like,
It's the exact
she's
same
literally
thing.
on that same pipeline where she's at the point of like, all of these trans people are being mean to me on the internet. Now, I support trans people's rights, but also at the same time, and that's what was so infuriating about her statement, was like, I support gender affirming care, but like forgot to put the asterisks of, except for unless it's like trans children, then I'm gonna like listen to Jesse Singal, who has literally been cited in like 100 anti-trans like legislation across the country, and like spread all of this ridiculous nonsense about trans youth, and like, I don't know. It's just really, really frustrating, infuriating. But it is this very like both like patronizing and like, oh, I'm don't worry, I'm here to help you. But also at the same time, I'm going to advocate for things that are like actively harmful to your community.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I really don't like is because the Jesse Single part is he has like a whole article about like puberty blockers not being reversible, or like it's just like this whole like pushing misinformation, because everyone knows for a fact that puberty blockers always has been a reversible thing. So all of a sudden, like you get like the pseudo intellectual like take that everyone in the trans community who actually takes these takes HRT, that knows, even when people advocate for us, like, they've always said the narrative, like the actual scientific narrative that's factual, has always been, puberty blockers are reversible. So that's part of the safe way for trans youth to start off before they even do hormone replacement, as far as it would save a trans daughter, estradiol, and a trans boy, testosterone, and then etc. And people are non-binary, whatever suits them. But puberty blockers has always been reversible, and this fact that they don't even mention, because like cis children that produce puberty, that go into puberty earlier than are usually put on that. That was like originally where they came from. So it's like they don't even talk about that. It's all about just trans youth that are being harmed, and this is like things within their doctor. So it's just like, yeah, and that's just one, because I had to take notes. Like I took notes on, because there's a lot of things that Anna, because I have receipts because I've been watching since 2017. So
Yeah,
I got you.
I think another thing that's important to remember when they talk about like puberty blockers is like, y'all know that like puberty blockers that's a compromise, right? Like the whole purpose of puberty blockers is to make like uncertain parents more comfortable, so that they just like delay going through puberty, right? Like that's literally it. That's all it is just like, how do we make cis people more comfortable that we have interrogated this child's gender enough to make sure? And I say child, but like if they're going through puberty, they're like in their preteens, right? And they're starting to figure themselves out, right? So it's not like 3-year-olds or anything that are being put on puberty blockers. These are like teenagers, right? Who have like stable gender identities. And so the thing is, like, what people really should be advocating for is that every kid is able to go through whichever puberty they're the most comfortable with. And when you frame it like that, then all of a sudden everything becomes clear, because that's all hormones really are. Whether or not it's testosterone or estrogen, it's just picking one puberty over another. And so like the puberty blockers really is just this time delay thing, because people want to like be doubly sure. And like on one level, I understand why people want to be doubly sure, but on another level, like pushing them as like the default go-to, this is like the line that everybody should take, is kind of silly, and is very much a compromise that is very much catering towards like cis people's concerns.
Now, I'm finding a lot of papers. I need to go through these. I don't want to read them all out now. But whether they are or aren't reversible seems like somewhat contentious in the in the scientific literature. So several of these are saying they're not necessarily reversible. Then there's also the issue with that they found that like if you give kids puberty blockers, more kids will carry on to be trans. Now I want to be clear, I'm not against puberty blockers or intervention for trans kids because of how damaging for being a trans woman, especially even more so than trans men. Going through a male puberty can be to any future happiness. To you looking like yourself, do you want to be how you feel? It becomes luck of the draw. You develop a body that can become feminine with hormones and stuff, or do you have a body where we're never going to know, even with surgery and everything, we're never going to 100% sort your face, we're never going to And that requires a lot of money. If you want to get really good facial feminization surgery, that I don't even think in England that's covered on the NHS. That's big money spending, right? So not everyone can even afford that. So I'm not against puberty blockers. I just think that like what's happening here is there's been a gross denial of what's being said in the literature, right? And an assumption that anytime anyone's questioning their gender, they're always trans, which isn't true. Most kids who have gender issues at school will go on to not be trans later, right? Because it's a difficult time. People are developing, people aren't sure. Many trans people know from when they're young children, right? This is why, again, I don't think it's an open and shut case. So for the Ana Kasparians, and certainly for TERFs and people like this, who want to say, oh, actually, we shouldn't do puberty blockers for kids, they're too young, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but many trans people do know very young, and it can be life-changing to get them. But that does go both ways, and it may be, and I don't think there's enough information out yet, that it can be life-changing for people who wouldn't have otherwise been trans who do take them. So it's not an easy issue. It's not open and shut. I err on the side of, look, we need some kind of intervention to help trans children. We absolutely do. These particular type of puberty blockers the best way? Is it the best way? There's lots of research being done, but I'm not going to speak surely on that. Although for the moment, I mean, I'm generally speaking in favour of them because of I think the benefits,
as opposed to like trans people's actual experience.
Yeah, it's not really even like they'll say puberty blockers, HRT, because those are scary things that people don't know about, right? But the transphobia is obviously so much deeper than that.
Why do they have to think like this? It's like, why not? Look, I'm literally reading scientific like studies. I'm not going to go through all these because it's going to be boring on stream, right? Yeah, like we did along. This is like a literature review talking like real serious details, right? Well, I'll just read this like bit through thorough retrospective cohort study building. Oh no. So right, timely whether GnRHA was used associated with subsequent use of GAT. I think it means gender transition, affirming transition. Transgender and diverse adults. This review between 2010-2018 from the US military healthcare system. Participants had at least 2 transgender-related encounters for the first occurring between 10 to 17, and at least 1 encounter with participants on the 14th birthday. The earliest a clinician would start gap-based using current guidelines. Sample included 400. This is just methodology. But yeah, I mean, you can see these are really detailed studies. I'm not going to go over all of it because it will get boring. Like there are multiple like studies of like you can go and look at science of people saying, is this the right treatment? We're not sure. And again, I think there really is an element of the jury being out on it. Although just I think something but although I think certainly teenagers, I think it becomes a little less the case, because I think when people say kids, like okay, there's a big difference between a 15-year-old transitioning and like a 12-year-old, right? Or going on puberty blockers. Or something like this. I think a 15-year-old's going to be a much better place to know whether they're still an adult, but they're going to be a much better place to know at that point, okay, is this really some sort of deep dysphoria? Is it not? Okay, so it's a very complicated issue, and they're pretending like it's simple. I know, right? And anyone who disagrees is a transphobe, and they're even saying giving puberty blockers and not just immediately doing HRT. So taking a 12-year-old goes, I think I'm having some like issues with my gender, right? The fact that you're not saying that, you don't immediately agree with that, means you're a bigot, and it's coming from deep transphobia is like crazy. That's just not a sensible position. That's not a position most trans people hold. Again, this is my issue with them going, oh, should just listen to the LGBT people. It's like, yeah, but you don't represent the vast majority of them, like what you're saying. Like, not even slightly.
And I know because I have a very young niece who is trans, and we've had family members attack her, accusing her parents of grooming her and genital mutilation when we're talking about social transition and different pronouns. So I'm sure that when it gets to, the HRT phase, when she grows up, gets older.
Yeah, I just want to be absolutely clear that, like, if you're saying, okay, a child having these issues, let's have them socially transition, that's terrible, at least without some serious, like, I'm sorry, like, yeah, that would be transphobic. If you're saying, oh, they're like, even for like younger kids, it could be 7, they're having gender issues. Okay, well, they want to wear a dress and be called Sarah, where they were called Sammy before and wore trousers. Like, fine, right? I don't see why you can have an objection to that. That's not like laced in some kind of transphobia. I'll agree.
That'll be an issue as well, but there's never like an acceptable level of transness for them. All transness is bad. All transness is indoctrination. And so they can try to like find these little endpoints to scare the normies. But regardless, even if puberty blockers and HRT didn't exist, if we were like 100 years back, just the mere existence of trans people scares them because that's the core of transphobia, right? They are horrified that people aren't just living the gender that they were ascribed at birth. They are horrified about the fact that, oh my God, we actually don't have to follow these very stringent gender rules that were, given to us. And that's ultimately what scares them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and this is like one of the reasons why like transphobes hyper focus on like trans women in particular, because like ultimately, like trans women, by definition, we are people who are actively choosing femininity, right? Which is something that you're not supposed to do under patriarchal society. Cis women.
That's not why you're actively choosing femininity. I hate the idea that being trans is a choice. That seems to me transphobic. If you're just saying, like, it's just a choice, like, hey, no, I am just basically a man who's chosen to be feminine. That seems mega transphobic. Because that's what TERFs argue. If it's a choice, these men choose to call themselves women. No, these are women. Because people have deep dysphoria, people need to transition socially, medically, etc., to live their lives to do this. And like, again, I'm not saying that this isn't true for what's she called, Benny, but like, it's not, you cannot choose to be trans. It's not a choice. It isn't a choice, right? Any more than you can choose to be gay, right? You can't choose, right? It's like, it's like, I kind of feel like it's like a gay dude going, yeah, they don't like it, I choose to like men. Yeah, bro, you don't choose to like men.
women are allowed.
Otherwise I choose to be pansexual if that was the way it was, right? Then you can have everything, so I'm greedy, so choose to bang anyone. Whatever comes my way. Well, it's not a choice.
To perform femininity because, of course, they're baby factories for all these cis men. But they're also supposed to be ashamed of it, right? So cis women are supposed to be feminine, but also ashamed of it. And so somebody who is not a baby factory and, and actively choosing femininity and not being ashamed of it, all of a sudden that like puts their whole like misogynistic patriarchal views in a twist. And all of a sudden they're like, what is wrong with you? Why on God's green earth would you do this? And this also explains why their reaction towards trans men is to basically like, oh, you're just helpless women that desperately want to be men. But I understand that because men are so much better than women, aren't they? Right? Like, and so that's why they hyperfixate on trans women and both like, once again, like, try to serve agency away from trans women, but also at the same time, like, overly sexualized trans women, because in their mind, femininity is something that is purely sexual in nature. And so that's really at like the root of this is like, it's just so much like deep-seated misogyny, ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, when you think about it, right? Because on one hand, I would want to be like, as a cis black woman, you say to yourself, what the fuck does this have to do with your womanhood? Like, anytime I hear this foolishness and the talking points from the Annas of the world, it's like this need to act like the existence of trans women is somehow threatening to them, threatening to their womanhood, threatening to our womanhood innately, and that seems ridiculous to me. But then I remember,
to be fair, actually, wait. So TERFs do that, I agree. But to say that that's what Anna said, again, we've looked at what Anna said. Anna has said that she thinks that puberty blockers are necessarily the best option for kids, and she's a bit worried about that. Also then said, don't call me a cervix haver. Or, right, I'm a woman. And that's it, right? And now it's like, she's spreading fear of trans people. She's trying to say that come on. That she needs protecting from them. She hasn't said any of this. It's just, but this is it. This is how these people think, right? Once you've identified yourself as not agreeing with 100%, you're the enemy. So they just lump you in with TERFs, Nazis, whatever. Like, doesn't matter. Like, you might as well be Hitler now. She might as well be Adolf Hitler at this point. Because that's it. Oh, you don't agree with 100%? Enemy. So here's what enemies believe. I don't even need to look at what she said. Let's all have a big group and talk like she's J.K. Rowling. And it is how they think. Because look, they're all doing it now. Bosch has done a crazy video on it, which I don't think I'm going to cover tonight. It's getting late, but I will be going over it tomorrow. And also the Jonah Hill thing.
I've never been afforded the status of like lady status, you know what I mean, of like lady, right? We're not included in what is considered like femininity and womanhood, right? Like, and that has always been reserved for white women, which is what I said in the beginning, why this entire experience when Anna has had such a paternalistic outcry from all the other white commentators, largely white men, feeling the need to defend her and coddle her, and everybody, even now, people are still like, oh, someone must have gotten to her, someone's espousing this, oh, she's wanting this. It's like this need to infantilize this white woman and protect her. And when you think about that, what has always been, womanhood status to exclude everybody, you know what I mean? Black women, white women excluded. It makes sense now, this kind of like violent reaction to trans women.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but her like kind of involvement in this discourse was the theoretical scenario of her being called a birthing person, right?
Yes.
Like for me, that's where this all started. Exactly. It's one of those made up problems where sure, academia, like you'll hear that phrase in academia and like maybe like legal jargon because it has legal implications in like the medical field, but like the average person isn't going around talking about like birthing persons or like birthing people. Like it's just a made up issue. And to me, I mean, maybe.
So it did actually come from some leaflets and stuff on the NHS, I think, in England. But yeah, it's not a gigantic issue, but then a lot of people are arguing in favour of it. So yeah, again, I don't see why it matters so much that like really you need a case. Like you go into a place, it says birthing person on the leaflet, or it says woman, or it says, if I went in and it said prostate haver, I don't care. Again, it's an issue. I do not think, however, if you think it's stupid, if you think it's wrong, if you don't think that they should do that, that makes you a transphobe in any fucking way.
I'm wrong here, but to me, it feels like an extension of like that suburban mindset where you have to find problems, like because yeah, one of the other things that this is kind of going off the path of the transphobia topic here that Anna has been on for the last year is her averse nature to the homeless issue in LA. And when she started to, I forget his name now, it's been a while, but she was like talking positively about that Republican running as a Democrat.
Rick Caruso. Was it him?
Yes.
Was that yep, I remember this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rick Caruso. And she was like, and of course, I forget who won. I forget her name.
Like the homelessness problem in these like cities is insane, right? Now I want to be clear, what's needed is proper mental health treatment, right? What's needed is investment in addiction therapy. And a lot of that comes from the mental health problems, right? A lot of the time you look at a lot of these people, right? They've got serious mental health problems that they medicate with drugs, right? And they end up homeless on the streets. They need help, okay? I agree. But like I've literally been to some of these places and it gets nuts. You're walking around. I remember the first time I went to LA once, right? I remember I went there. There's people shitting in bins. There's a guy in a bin screaming at people like wanking, like but just gibberish at women and stuff as they walk past. And he's sat there like looking through his dick eye. Hey, what happened to me? I think he's on meth or something. I don't know. And had mental health problems. And I'm not trying to make fun of the guy. His life's terrible. He needs help. I agree. He needs help. We need to help these people. You have to pay for proper services through taxation to help these people. However, it's a serious problem. It needs dealing with. They need to be off the streets. It's like worrying, terrifying to walk through there when there's somebody masturbating at you, when there's somebody like screaming and shouting and hurling shit, right? It is a problem that needs dealing with. And I feel like the left in response, instead of talking about, okay, let's increase taxes and let's use that money to pay for these proper services, they're going, hey, these are unhoused neighbours, blah, blah, blah. It's like there's really good lefty points, to be fair, to be made about homelessness. But they don't go for those like actually genuinely good points. They go for silliness.
Well, I'm not from
California. Maybe they'll say something. Maybe they'll come out with some actually based
I wasn't like
points.
super favorable of her, but in that mayoral race, she was the clear better choice. Like Rick Caruso, he was a straight Republican.
Yeah,
but she was like she was talking
about Baron too.
Was he what?
A land baron or something as well. Like all his solutions or potential viable solutions to the homeless crisis were basically the one that had been done ad nauseum without any good effects. Like
absolutely.
Like first or anything, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was. I don't think she outright endorsed him, but she talked very positively about him.
I'm pretty sure Janky like endorsed him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
yeah. So like for me, the last like year or two, it's been very instructive about like this somewhat reactionary turn to this like suburbanite mindset of making up problems and not really seeing the solutions for what they are, and kind of giving into this like reactionary turn.
Yeah. To your point, did you see that she had recently now gone down the pathway of promoting that Ollie London story about how there's a UK LGBTQ plus group that wants to replace the word vagina with what was it? Something bonus hole. Yeah, bonus hole. Like anyone who was giving Anna the benefit of the doubt at first when she was making up this whole birth person is a real problem. Come on, I never want to be like erased as a woman if you call me a birthing person. Like this is her doing the exact same thing again. This happened in 2020, 3 years ago. You're only bringing it up as a non-issue because it inflames like anti-LGBTQ hatred, right? People see that like, oh, things have gone too far. What Flimshaw? I can't believe this is happening. She knows what she's doing. She has to.
Where did she say that? She said the way people were treating her over a couple of statements was crazy. This is what I mean. Because she doesn't agree with 100%. Now they can put words in her mouth. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. She's TERF. She's a conservative. So now, she's just like make up stuff. She's saying, oh, it's gone too far. It's too far. She said, like, no. But you can just lump her in with everyone and say that she's saying this, she's saying this. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows exactly what she's doing. Right, I realise this is purely by accident, right? And this is just the absolute, complete coincidence. But this is the most, it's just, I've just got him mid-blink. It's not even his fault. This is the most soy face I've ever seen in my life. I need to screenshot this immediately. I'm going to save that. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she literally does.
It was
because
just
there's receipts
mid-blink,
from
but
her
it was just-
calling
it was
herself
just
silly like
a-
a year ago. Like,
I know. I posted it. I know. I go to the streets.
Picking up what June said, so what I don't get is like, and I know you said this on the Hill, only me, literally, like it'll be the same turf saying, how trans women can't give birth, what makes a woman is, being able to give all these things, but this, they turn, birthing person into this, all of a sudden, they have a whole opposite, exactly, whole opposite talking point when that's what exactly they use against us. They use their chromosomes that makes them, or they use their uterus, all these things around being, basically a birthing.
It's true, but that's not what Ana Kasparian was doing. Right? It wasn't. That's not it. But again, lump her in, stick all these words in her mouth. So, a lot of them do this, so that must be what she was doing. She knows what she's doing. The devil. Right? And this is why people see this bullshit and go, you know what? Fuck these people. I don't mean trans, I mean like the wokeoid, the hardcore, Wokescold people. They see them and go, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck these people. I cannot be arsed with it anymore. I cannot be arsed.
Makes a woman, so it's just ignorant. But also, I'm gonna make this known because I took a note because I remembered this. But it's the whole fact that she lied on you, Amy, and the whole way she brought it up, and the way, and even the fact that she tried to say she's not white. When in 2018 in one of the broadcasting, she identified as a white Armenian. She literally identified. So the fact that she went now when it's convenient at a podcast with centrists, so all of a sudden not be act like, because I was looking for that clip, and I'm like, there are literally a news broadcasting. I cannot find this within hours before the stream.
Didn't I say earlier on Surfs, did I not say that is the most ridiculous bullshit? The whole thing, they call me white, I'm Armenian. I said, that's like me sitting up here I'm not black, I'm Bahamian. What the fuck are we talking about here? And I'm like, first and foremost, the reality is this. Not only is that some bullshit and it's disingenuous in and of itself, right? Even if we wanted, even if you believe somehow I made her not white, the reality is she knows it does, and she believes that there's no white passing. Because first of all, race is a construct. Race is about how you are seen and perceived and treated in the world, right? I am black regardless of what the fuck.
This is such a misrepresentation. We watched it earlier. She's just like, I'm white passing, because I'm Armenian, blah, blah, To then go, no, she's going, oh, I'm white passing, I'm not really white, don't call me white. Never said any of that shit. Unless there's something I missed. Maybe someone's got another clip. I've never fucking seen it. Right? And we didn't watch it in any of the other clips today. So, bollocks. Again,
identifies me. The world sees me as black. They don't care what I'm talking about. They don't care nothing about any of that. Anna's walking through the world a white blonde woman. She's a white woman. That's one. But two, more importantly, she is mad. She literally then proceeds to say that she brings up that point in the interview she does in the right wing show where she calls my name, is where she brings up that point and be like, oh, I'm calling me white when I'm Armenian, to then follow up with how she's offended, literally saying how white people thought process or critiques that are made about white people. So if you weren't white, if you don't identify as a white woman, you're not white. Why do critiques made about white people, just general critiques about white people, offend you? Why are we here discussing that? Why are you on this show literally commiserating with other white identifying people about white?
Yeah, if you're not black, why does people being racist to black people matter? You know what I mean? If you're ridiculous. Firstly, that's a silly thing. Surely, if I see somebody being racist to black people, if I saw somebody being racist to Olurinatti, I'm like, that's fucked. I'd probably say something. Right, number one. Number two, she never fucking said, I'm not a white woman. Oh, I'm not a white woman, it doesn't apply to me. She just went, they say white passing, so I'm Armenian, but not.
The person critiques. If you don't identify as a white person, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, she said she don't want to talk to people outside of her race. So what race is she claiming to be part of that makes her feel too afraid to talk to non-people?
Certainly she doesn't mean non-Armenian people. I don't think everybody up there is Armenian.
No, yeah, so she picks and chooses when she wants to be white, and that's what I'm trying to say. She identified as a white woman probably a year ago, probably before that stream, but when it was convenient, and
look at license.
And this is a tactic. This is a tactic that I feel people, and I won't lie, I've seen this with some white Armenians where sometimes they want to identify with the whiteness, and sometimes, when it's convenient for them, that's for that person of color. Exactly. So it's just laughable, but also it's all this over because you didn't coddle her. Just because you didn't coddle her white woman tears, all this vigor and anger and angry black women in you, when it's you literally, you said, you protect them from you by not going, you gave her a chance. She went at you and she expects you to clap back. As you should. Like, and you do it publicly. I'm sorry. So like, you came with the receipts of receipts of receipts. Like, because I remember hearing her read the N-word out loud. I'm like, you know, back in 2018, I'll be like, I don't know how I feel about that. You know, I'm like 19 years old at this time, so it's just kind of like, I see what you're doing, like, but you know, this feels weird. And I always like, you know, they'll have like other white people trying to defend that. And I was like, you know what? It's not okay in no context. You should be saying N-word. That's just always what it's been for non-black people.
Yeah.
But even just when it's like, I don't know. But that's like the one thing I was just like, I don't get. It's the fact that she picks and chooses being white, and that's just a factual thing that we can't get it. Like, we can't allow her to have run with that argument to go punch down at a black woman. At the end of the day, all into punch down a black woman.
And that's and the reason why she does it is because that's the one thing everybody's gonna let her do. Like, you know,
like misogynoir. She's punching down to black women. How? Because what? She had to go. She had a falling out with Olurinatti. Even if you think Olurinatti is white, how the fuck is Anna going around punching down to black women?
Juniper brought it up, but
like,
under talked about the point of all of this is that before they even got as loudly about their transphobia.
But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She doesn't agree with them on stuff, so she's
in peddling racism and propaganda and microaggressions and all that stuff. And I know it because that's all I've seen out of them in the last year. Nobody talks about it. The reason why she wants to angry black women, the reason why she wants to feed me to the right, the reason why she keeps saying I called her a racist when I didn't is because she knows that's the one thing that'll get everybody to criticize me. The white left loves to criticize the black woman for that too. I know it. They criticize me leftist mafia every fucking Thursday night. You can't say nothing. So, you know, that's something the right wants to, the right can't wait to go mobilize hate towards you, and the white left will do it too. No one, and that was something I was talking about earlier before y'all joined in on Lance's show. No one talks about it from that angle of the fact that she's a 40-year-old woman jumping up on my 29-year-old black behind when she is literally, I'm like, this is a woman with millions of subscribers and followers, money, all of this, blah, 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 and she's going after me. Like months after the fact, you bringing up something, you're going on right-wing shows, intentionally calling my name, doing all these things, intentionally to mobilize hate towards me. And I think it's so funny how in the same breath that she is obviously Goliath to me, she's the one being like victimized and infantilized and protected. Everybody is like, ooh, the big bad lie. And I'm like, I live with a cat in Brooklyn, minding my business. I didn't say shit about this woman.
well, that's the thing. You're so right about it.
All she has to do is disagree with them, and then they can blow it out to now she hates black women. She was attacking Illuminati, like going crazy on her, going berserk, going mad, wild, right, over Illuminati. You know, now, so, and then, right, and then they just put whatever they want, whatever they like in her mouth. It gets worse and worse and worse and worse, and it's crazy. Like, come on. And then they wonder, right, why does no one take us seriously? Why does no one, right, so no, like, why do people like Ana Kasparian get cross with us? Why are they not like, and it's like, well, you can see. You should be able to bloody see why people are getting cross with you.
Because whenever she starts to engage in some of this like transphobia and starts going after some of these like insular left issues, she gets people like Oliver London, and she's gotten retweets from Ben Shapiro talking about some of these issues. She starts getting love bombed.
Up too.
Yes.
Yeah. All these horrible people start love bombing her, being like, "Oh, you're so right. You're so right. Like keep speaking her truth about all of these issues."
Right.
And it's just so telling when she starts talking about some of the stuff. It's like you know who to expect to see in the replies. You know exactly the type of right-wing Daily Wire hanger-oner is going to be there and trying to like win her over. Every single time she's done this, it's been the exact same people.
Because that's what she's talking to.
It's very telling.
I think that's what she's like. I've been saying from the jump. That's what she's talking to. She's talking past us. We're all like, that's why, like, to us, right? If you believe that she was somebody who was genuinely leftist and she's not making a pivot and all of this different stuff, then it seems outrageous. Like, how could she possibly be ignoring? She's not seeing all her friends and colleagues and all these people and all, according to her, all the trans rights activists telling her all these things. It's thousands of people she's ignoring.
Two of which are on the same panel together. Three of which are on the same panel together.
Never, like she's getting these reactions.
This is like a small group of people again who have these like great like views, who have these views, and this system. It's not just the views, but it's the system of the. What's the word I'm looking for? It's the way they interpret any the tribalism, right? And the way that if you have anything that deviates even slightly from that view, enemy, devil. We can put whatever you want in your mouth. And now they don't even need to think about what she said. It can, of a couple of tweets to Olurinatti being like, hey, why are you saying like, you know, oh, you should cook your friends, blah, 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 blah. They should be cooked. Freaking out, hyper defending themselves, like hyper like, oh, now she thinks it's okay to come on and make crazy accusations against the black woman. Now and it's like, what? And you can put anything in her mouth. Now she's racist. Now she's transphobic. Now she's all of these things. Because she didn't agree with the puberty blockers thing. Because she didn't agree with, or didn't agree, said she wasn't sure about puberty blockers for kids. Because she said, the thing about the don't call me a cervix haver. No, now we can say anything. We can paint her as a racist, we can paint her as transphobe, paint her as far right, say she knows what she's doing, she's a grifter, all of this. I'm like, I don't think they know what they're doing. I don't think they even know what they're doing. I think they just think like this. They have this way of thinking, And then that's it. I don't even think it's a conscious thing. I don't even think that they're going around going, oh yeah, let's lie about it. Let's grossly exaggerate. I just think they egg each other on and egg each other on and egg each other on. And this is where we have
the narrative. Yeah. The right wing pivot, the narrative has to be, look how I left the left because the left treat me like shit because they're crazy and they're irrational and they won't hear different opinions. So what she needs to do is to paint us like
I don't believe in civil rights.
Exactly.
I wanted to bring that up.
So what age?
She used a right wing talking point because the same like right wing talking point that right wing people use against black people about how they use like the civil rights movement, how it was peaceful against, you know, they did that in Black Lives Matter during 2020. Yes. They immediately invoked that. So it's
their bag.
It's their bag. So it's just like she immediately threw that out, and you know. And I had to lay it out in a tweet because I was getting all these right wingers in my comments just because I laid it out. I was like, come on, like, are you fucking serious? Like, one, the civil rights movement is not a monolith. Like, there's so many folks. There's Malcolm X, there's Angela Davis, there's Nikki Giovanni. That's how Rosa Parks. She said, I ain't giving up my motherfucking seat. Yes. She said she's not getting up too damn bad. You gonna have to suck it up. These people they're all say fuck respectability politics. You're not gonna respectability politics. You're not gonna civility, trans issues. Trans people are not gonna get, and black people have not.
Yeah, actually, with Rosa Parks, they organized that. Like, first of all, that wasn't just like a random thing, right? She was like organized, and they chose somebody who was like the most stand-up. I can't remember like exactly about it, but she was like the most stand-up, like perfect person you could have. Yeah, that movement 100% understood optics and stuff like that. And see, this is what they do. They rebrand optics as civility politics. So it's like, oh, here, why don't we be sensible? Why don't we engage with people? It's like, no, I get in the face and scream at them and make shit up about them and say whatever I like about them, right? Because fuck respectability politics. And it's like, okay, well, you obviously are just a selfish person who doesn't give a fuck about any of the issues you campaign for and just cares way, 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 way more about you feeling good laughing online as a person who actually cares and does something.
Rights off of civility politics. That does not get us anywhere.
It literally does. It literally got the entire civil rights movement, most rights movements, right? It's like it really works. So just having good optics and understanding how you look and how you appear to the general public in a democracy is how you get change, right? When you appear well, what you want is you want to appear good and you want the other side to appear bad. And then people in the democratic country will support you, right? When you don't do that, you end up with this. You don't do that, you end up with nothing. You end up with just a load of people on the panel wanking each other off.
So for me, it's like it's just like when I seen it, I laughed. I didn't get upset because to me that was just further confirmation that this is a pivot. This is a right wing grift. That is their playbook to bring up MLK and invoke him in this respectability politics way. And he has an excellent point. So Bunny is like, there are a million other civil rights leaders, right? Like a million of them else. But also, it is a mischaracterization of MLK's philosophy. I'm so sick of all these white people who don't read books talking shit on MLK's name. First of all, MLK has never. When did y'all hear MLK come out and say, I believe in non-violence because what are you talking about? Because violence is wrong. He didn't say that. Read his books. He said, I believe these fucking white people will kill us and that we'll be outnumbered. That's what he said. We'll be outnumbered. It will be a mass slaughter and I don't want to bring my people to genocide. That is what he said. It was not a moral fucking condemnation of violence. That is not the case.
I love how people go read a book when they've never read a book in their fucking lives. I'm sorry, right? I brought this up earlier because I was like, I think I saw a clip of this and I was like, I bet it's going to come up. Right. So, right, here's Martin Luther King. It's like, here's actually some like writing on him, right? Topic: as a theologian, Martin Luther King reflected often on his understanding of nonviolence. He described his pilgrimage to nonviolence in his first book, Stride Towards Freedom. And in subsequent books and articles, true pacifism or nonviolent resistance, King wrote, is a courageous confrontation of evil by the power of love, both morally and practically. Committed to nonviolence, King believed that Christian doctrine of love, operating through a Gandhian method of non-violence, was one of the most potent weapons available to oppress people in the struggle for freedom. Right? That's what Martin Luther King actually thought. Look, let's look at him talking about non-violence.
Gandhi? Where did you come to Gandhi? I came to Gandhi in the same setting. In theological seminary days, I had heard of Gandhi, but I remembered hearing a message by the president of Howard University, Dr. Mordecai Johnson, who had just returned from India. He spoke in Philadelphia on his trip to India and the whole philosophy of Gandhi and passive nonviolent resistance. Now, I was so deeply moved by the message that I went away and bought several books on the Gandhian, on Gandhi and Gandhian technique. And at that point, I became deeply influenced by Gandhi, never realizing that I would live in a situation where it would be useful and meaningful.
And actually used it actually would apply it in this country.
Right, let's watch another one. Just
Well, I don't think of
context.
love as, in this context, as emotional bosh. I don't think of it as a weak force. But I think of love as something strong and that organizes itself into powerful direct action. Now, this is what I tried to teach in the struggle in the South, that we are not engaged in a struggle that means we sit down and do nothing. That there's a great deal of difference between non-resistance to evil and non-violent resistance. Non-resistance leaves you in a state of stagnant passivity and deadened complacency, wherein non-violent resistance means that you do resist in a very strong and determined manner. Well, I don't think that's true. If anyone has ever lived with a non-violent movement in the South, from Montgomery on through the Freedom Rides and through the sit-in movement and the recent Birmingham movement, and see the reactions of many of the extremists and reactionaries in the white community, he wouldn't say that this movement makes, or this philosophy makes them comfortable. I think it arouses a sense of shame within them often, in many instances. I think it does something to touch the conscience and establish a sense of guilt. Now, so often people respond to guilt.
It's so funny watching these, like,
engaging
it's
more
so funny watching him and then watching this.
the guilt-evoking act in an attempt to drown the sense of guilt. But this approach certainly doesn't make the white man feel comfortable. I think it does the other thing. It disturbs this conscience, and it disturbs this sense of contentment that he's had.
Yeah, so she was talking bollocks. She's never read any of his shit, read any of his stuff, right? Making.
I literally wrote my first essay in my Substack, Olurinatti, my Substack about this, America's hypocrisy on violence, the case of police brutality, and the fact that ideologically, the Black Panthers and MLK were not this big divergent thing on violence. It was a tactic. It was just literally a matter of strategy of let's try this out. And I have a hard time, let me tell you something. If he tried something out in the 60s, he was trying it out. What makes you feel like in 2023, when, by the way, his daughter and living descendants are fucking alive, co-signing Black Lives Matter in the protest that y'all are using it to discredit? What makes you feel like if he saw y'all doing the same fucking shit in 2023, you know, after also you niggas assassinated him, what makes you feel like he'd be like, oh, yeah, definitely nonviolence is the way to go with them? Like if he came back from the grave where y'all put him. So anyhow, yeah, I just...
Yeah, sorry, a lot of people don't know this. Ana Kasparian, actually, and Chen Uga went back in time. It was actually them that assassinated Gandhi because they're such racists, as proven. And you that's Gandhi. Sorry, there was another thing on Twitter. Assassinated Martin Luther King. But yeah, you can see, like, in the videos we watch, Martin Luther King talking about non-violence, talking about how it's the moral, like, literally, he, like, said it was because it was the moral choice. He said it's impossible. Look, here's another one. It's impossible, no, this is another lecture, it was just a transcript. But yeah, literally says, like, I can't find it, but anyway, he says in it, like, it's like a moral choice. It's the moral choice. He said there, like, it's a very effective tactic, and it's like, it's right, and it's a moral choice. Like, she just makes shit up. This is the problem as well, because it makes you think, like, I feel like there's a lot of, it makes you question, are universities just accepting people writing absolute dog shit if it's like in these kind of like Wokescolds studies? And then what university did you go to?
We need to acknowledge, like, even the phrase nonviolence is in some sense like an op in and of itself. Because literally when you say nonviolence, people just hear violence and then like that's it, right? So if you're talking about like all of these, they're nonviolent protesters, that implies that there is like, there might be violent, they might be violent protesters, maybe. I mean, they say they're nonviolent, right? Because like humans, just the way we process language, we're gonna focus less on the non and more on the violence part of that word. Yeah. And so like, to be entirely honest, like the whole like front of that is just kind of like ridiculous. And like, yeah, obviously these people literally have no understanding of like, yeah, Martin Luther King literally worked with like the Deacons for Defense and Justice, right? So like, where are we gonna like do we really think that like Martin Luther King was like an absolute fool and was just like, oh no, yeah, I know the Klan is like literally right there, but let's just all just go, you know, completely unprotected into a situation? Like that's just silly, right? That's just fundamentally silly. But like, you know, these people have literally no interest in learning the tiniest bit of history. And to bring that back to like Stonewall, right? Like everybody will say like Stonewall was a riot, but then also like 3 minutes later be like, how dare these trans people protest in a way that I don't like right now today.
Absolutely.
And on that, there was a post I saw that outlined like pretty well that like I hate to use this phrase, but trans people and trans activists are mostly like nonviolent. Like we're very like nonviolent. We're very like passive compared to like past civil rights moments, especially compared to, because like Anna brought up, of course, as you guys were just talking about, the civil rights era for Black people, and she was like, oh no, Black people never did this. But someone posted a couple of pictures that went off of Black people armed with weapons, like taking over like a university, which is like it's just.
My basic philosophy, which grows out of the nonviolent tradition, is that a moral man cannot in good conscience accept injustice and adjust to an evil system. He must resist it. He has a moral obligation to resist evil. But in resisting it, he must recognize that he stands on higher moral grounds when he will resist that unjust system non-violently. The individual seeks to achieve moral ends through moral means, and I think this is what nonviolence is saying in the final analysis, that means and ends must cohere, and that in order to bring about a just society and a righteous society, it is necessary to use just and righteous methods.
Anna is just completely misrepresenting the civil rights movement, and she was trying to say that like trans people are worse than, like, more violent than this, and it's like we're pretty passive. Like, we're just posting online for the most part. Like, a lot of this discourse is mostly online.
But she knows it. I mean, her big bad gripe with the trans. Let's pretend everything she's saying about the trans community was true. Her the big bad trans people called her a birthing person. Like, there has never been. Not only is she lying and making the shit up, but the shit she's making up is fucking stupid.
That's crazier.
And I would say,
Soul Bunny. Hold on, let me Soul Bunny because Soul Bunny.
I would say if we were violent, there'd be all these fucking articles about us being violent, all these right-wing people with footage, all this stuff. Like, we don't have, it's not documented. Like, it's literally just nothing. We know better than to put ourselves at risk. We're already at risk. Literally, that's the whole reason why we're protesting, because of our own lives. Like, me as a Black trans woman, I'm not gonna go shake the fucking table even more in a physical way, knowing my own fucking like rate of like murder rate in this country. Like, what the fuck? Like, but also, these are the same people that will call the Black Panthers terrorists, because call them violence. And like, again, like, I just don't. The whole thing is a right-wing, white supremacist talking point blank here, and. The same way they weaponize things against Black people, they're doing it again. They're using the same tactics against trans people, and it's really fucking disgusting to kind of see it as a whole. Like, because again, like, I think she tried to say that, I guess supposedly some trans people activists barricade someone in a room. Like, I don't know where the fuck you got that from, but that's not something, because if that was the case, I feel like we'd all fucking hear about it from right wings. They wouldn't be able to shut them up.
I dare her to tell us about one thing that happened to her. Like, I dare her to, like, her and Jang are always, I heard, mysterious swords to be named at a later fucking date. I heard, insert propaganda, I heard. Like,
we literally watched her, right, explain stuff people say, explain stuff that happened, and like, and I'm sorry, like, these people also are proving it on this panel, where, like, she says a couple of things, and then now suddenly she's the devil, she's far right, who's the extreme of shit, she killed the king. I know that's not what she meant white people generally. All simultaneously responsible for his deaths.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who right now are the actual terrorists making violent acts? Like, what just happened in Waterloo? 3 people got stabbed. How many places, like Anheuser-Busch, bomb threats, death threats, Boston Children's Hospital, bomb threats, death threats, schools, bomb threats, death threats, people shooting up power grids. Who's actually doing violent extremism right now between the two groups?
100%.
What? She never said trans people, but when the fuck has Anna said the trans people are violent extremists? She never said this. She said she got a lot of abuse and people were saying crazy stuff to her. Which is what happened. But they have to exaggerate because now she's the devil. So it's like they just put these ideas onto her, and I literally think they project them. Like, I actually think in most of these cases, we've seen, like, initially they were like, oh, I'm not saying she's the trans. I wasn't even saying she was a transphobe. Why is she acting like this? And now it's like she's right. She's transphobe. She's like terrible. Oh God, this is insane. And here's exactly what she's doing. It's part of a right-wing plot to attack, like, the trans.
So the event that Anna was referring to did, like, sort of happen, but she's over-exaggerating exactly what happened, of course. So I've seen a video of this. This happened maybe maybe a month ago or 2 months ago. So do you guys know who Riley Gaines is?
Oh yeah, 5th place swimmer, right?
Yeah, yes. So the 5th place swimmer that tied with a trans woman but lost to other cis women. But she's making her whole thing now. She's being funded by, like, right-wing politicians. She's basically like this grifter currently. She's making a public profile of tying with a trans woman in swimming. I think it was swimming. It was either swimming or, like, some other, like, minor, some sort of sport. So she was at some sort of like free speech anti-trans event, and she had like a security entourage, and there were counter protesters, and it was like at a university, and the counter protesters for the event were like following her entourage, and her entourage brought her into like a classroom, and they locked the door, and the counter protesters outside were just saying like trans rights, or, like trans lives matter, sort of stuff. That's the whole thing. Like they were just basically saying like trans rights, trans lives matter for like 2 hours or something like that outside of this room that they locked themselves into. That's the whole thing that Anna was referring to, is this Riley Gaines event that was like shut down because counter protesters.
And God forbid. That's what I mean. Here's the thing. This is the thing that I've always said, and this is a certain level, and this is the dangerous part I have with treating like these commentators and these media figures like they are movement leaders when they are nothing of the sort in and of its entirety. And the fact that they've even been like lauded this authority from who knows where to feel like they can conduct movements and decide what is this and what's based on popularity. Here's the thing. Protesting is not supposed to be fucking comfortable. That's literally the fucking purpose. Protesting is supposed to make people
You're literally witnessing people being turned off your movement because you're screaming at them, you're going berserk, and then you refuse to accept it. Like, yeah, protest is supposed to be uncomfortable, but it's got to be uncomfortable in a way that makes people want to come to your side. Right? So, for example, if you do a protest and the police come down and beat you all up, right, that might get everybody on your side. If you do a protest and smash things down and burn things, that's not going to work. If you sit behind a keyboard having never doing anything, just constantly just bad-mouthing someone, constantly making stuff up, demonizing them, yeah, they're probably not going to want to be on your side. Like, sorry.
Powers that be so fucking uncomfortable that they feel forced to do something different. That is the point. If it's comfortable, it's not a fucking protest, okay? The reason why they do this, do the next thing, if you are my oppressor and you're enjoying what I'm doing, is it a protest? So that's one. Second of all, this whole idea of pushing this popularity thing, that is not what the whole purpose of having a grassroots movement, the whole thing with factions, the whole thing about starting something or a minority opinion or civil rights things is that it's not the majority. It's not the majority. It's not what's pervasive in society is the thing that we are rebutting and fighting against. So saying that, the majority supports something as a means to stop rebutting it or resistance makes no fucking sense. Obviously, we know if the majority didn't believe it, it wouldn't be oppression. It wouldn't be a problem. Okay, so that is ridiculous. But then third and most importantly, no one, and statistically, they know this because I've heard them fucking acknowledge it before. No one is voting on trans issues, and they know it. There are no Democrats losing elections because for supporting the trans community. Nobody, in fact, all the bullshit that you think is so unpopular that makes no one even knows about it. You're not the fucking one making up this nonsense to your audience. The average person in American society, statistically we know this, are not thinking about trans people, and they're not voting. They're not voting one way or the next. Good, bad. They're not voting on the trans community.
I don't think it's the biggest issue on people's minds now, but I think there's a lot of vitriol over it, and I think I don't even think she ever said that the Democratic Party either was pandering to trans people. She just said sometimes she wishes that they wouldn't agree with every little woke talking point of everything.
Be fucked up or not, that is the reality. So all the different things that are part of the narrative, you're the one pushing and creating narrative. That's the whole thing that makes it so dangerous, is that TYT is this institution that people have trusted, that they think is credible. So if you constantly decide to make it your business to talk about the trans community more than the trans community has ever asked you to discuss them with made up bullshit right-wing propaganda stuff, you're the one floating unpopular opinions to the masses or whatever it is and creating these things. So that's how I know, again, it's a fucking grift. It's a grift. It's a right-wing pivot. It's so fucking clear. It's not about any of these things because they're all very easily debunked, flimsy nonsense.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Something that I touched on in my video actually a little bit, which is just the core reality that okay, so if Jenks says, for example, that we shouldn't talk about sports, like trans people in sports, because it's unpopular, but then you spend a huge time on your segment railing against how dare these trans people spend so much time talking about trans people in sports, well then you're just actually siding with the reactionaries in that instance, right? By running around talking about how terrible and unsmart these activists are, not only are you giving an invitation to the worst type of people in politics, which are people who base their political opinions off of what they think will make them look the most smart and reasonable, as opposed to people who just decide what is the morally correct opinion, but you're inviting those people.
Wait. Oh, they shouldn't be seen as smart and reasonable. Yeah. Of course. What would you say? Do you want to be seen as stupid and unreasonable? Because that's kind of how a lot of people see you. The morality's in the right place, but you're stupid and unreasonable. That's how I feel about all these people. The morality's in the right place. I'm for a lot of the same shit in the loosest possible sense they were before, but not to the extremes that they take it. But let's put on trying to tell I'm anti-racist, blah blah blah. But right. These people appear to me to be stupid and unreasonable. So, yeah, you should seem smart and reasonable. That's how you convince people.
To be
again, I love that all of those Martin Luther King clips were paid when she was lying and saying that, he didn't even really care about non-violence if it's a tactic he was testing out. I also love that as well in that it carries on disproving shit that they say, because you watch that and fuck me, does he seem smart and reasonable? Do you know what I mean?
transphobic because you're saying that it's strategic to be transphobic in that instance, but you're also you're literally making the argument, right? You're literally making the argument for the right-wingers by saying, why are you spending so much time on this? How dare you activists do this? If you really think that the solution is to just not talk about it, then don't talk about it at all.
Right. Like, they could literally do less harm by shutting the fuck up.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And you made a great point earlier about how like people aren't losing elections on this. The people who are losing elections on this are right wingers.
And Jane.
So I don't know how widespread this group is. I think I should have looked it up before, but I think
I thought all these lefties were all like laughing at that when like Chen Q was one of the most like left-wing candidates elected. Like, did he literally start the whole idea of the Justice Dems and having the like campaign finance and shit for them? Like, whereas these people have achieved nothing. Nothing. Right? Other than just vitriol online. And yet they wonder why some people say, you know what, that really turns me off their movement. They wonder, they question, they can't figure it out. It's because they're not trying to look smart or reasonable.
Group is called like Awake or Awoke. It's like a right-wing organization that is specifically their platform is like anti, like, of course I'm doing air quotes right now, I don't have a camera, but it's anti-grooming, it's anti-trans, it's like anti-LGBTQ.
Gag?
Yeah, Gag. I think they're probably associated with it, but I think the group is called Awake, and they ran some politicians in Wisconsin and Illinois, specifically on this like anti-trans platform, and all of them got wiped across the board. Not a single one of them won any elections. So like this isn't a winning issue for right-wingers even.
Yes.
Like it's not like, it's really not. It's just a culture war issue being propped up by big money from like the Ron DeSantis campaign, from all of these like grifting groups, all these people.
It depends where you are. I think Ron DeSantis has done well in Florida, unfortunately, off a lot of this. But I mean, there's these laws sweeping like the country, sweeping America. But listen, I'm not necessarily looked into if a load of the anti-trans people lost the seats primarily. That's good if they did. It doesn't really seem to be the case. I mean, which Republican senators are pro-trans? Which one's the pro-trans one?
A public profile for themselves, like Ali London, like all these like online personalities. That's all this is. Yeah. And the fact that TYT is giving into this, Anna and Jank, it's really a shame.
Why are they bringing up Ali London now?
Scapegoated. That's my personal.
100%.
This is what I mean. They're all the same. They're all the same now in these people's minds. Anna Kasparian's the same as Ollie London, the same as anyone. She's a transphobe. She's the same as like Republican senators who are voting for trans bathroom bills and this, that, and the other. Right? And this is it, because she disagreed on 2 points, because she said, hey, I don't think that that puberty blockers are necessarily the best option for kids. And then she was like, I don't know. I don't like being called a cervix haver. I would prefer to just be called a woman. Right? And now she's as bad as the worst transphobes. Now the TYT are pushing like right-wing propaganda. You know what I mean? It's a little... It's just like, what? Why? How can they not see that this is like, they just literally prove every single point she's made about this movement being ridiculous and vitriolic, right? That you can't say anything, otherwise then you're an enemy, right? They alienate everybody who might otherwise agree with them, who probably agrees with them on like most other things. But that's it. Now she's an enemy, right? And now they're talking like TYT and now basically the Daily Wire.
The reason why you see this massive rise in transphobia is because right now the trans community is the easiest to other. That is where you're going to see no true solidarity and people fighting up, because they're still being treated as unicorns, right? There was a time when they would just go after the larger LGBT community with the same kind of ferocity, right? Like 15 years, 20 years ago, shoot, it's not even that much. Let's keep it real, to be honest. 50, let's say 50. How do we go after the gay community? But since then, the world is American society is far more receptive to gay people. It's far more normalized. It's far more going to seem way more resistant. You can't do that in the same way. But the trans community, that is a perfect unicorn for them to go after and attack. And because people don't realize, and this is a problem I have with like even framing things as allyship. I feel like we have to stop making people feel like they're doing other people a favor. Like, that's the thing. It's like I wish we would all just be selfish and acknowledge that this and pitch it from that perspective. Because the reality is even if you didn't give a fuck about the trans community, if they come for the trans community in the morning, they're gonna come for you at night. That's the whole purpose, right? They do all of this. If cis women allow them to police womanhood, police gender, that's how you see cis women being kept out of competing in things, right? You saw that happen to that black woman athlete the other day. That's the same way you see them start evasively imposing policies where they can now check you and search you and expose you to all kinds of things. Or where cis women whose traditional femininity isn't as pronounced are going to see yourself treated and mistreated just like trans women are. So the reality is, even if you don't give a fuck about it, that's always been my position. Even if you don't give a fuck about anybody else, you don't give a fuck about you. You know what I mean? That's what this is really about. The reason why they're doing this is because the way that in the time that they're busy coming after and attacking for the trans community, they've also been banning books, doing propaganda, raising funds, getting rid of all kind of care for you know what I mean? Like, they're attacking everything in the same package because it's all connected. But if the first thing people hear and you flood them with making it seem like
oh, the trans community, this, blah, 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 then people are asleep. People are asleep to it, and then everything fucking happens, right? Before you fucking know it, you sit in the same pot of shit that you helped facilitate.
No, yeah,
okay,
so that's the whole aspect.
Oh,
Sorry.
so-
It's a child. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Are you a man or a woman?
Why does that matter?
Well, because you're in the ladies' room.
You just saw a portion of a video where a 24-year-old cisgender woman, meaning a woman who was born biologically as a woman and identifies as a woman, named J. Rose, was accosted by an anti-trans bigot who questioned whether she was a woman who belonged in the bathroom.
We don't have to watch this whole clip, right? But yet, no, she's as bad as Ollie London. She's a right winger. You know what I mean? They looked at from like a few months ago, and she's like, literally like, it's like quite clear. You're doing some of these pro-trans, pro all these things that are like the way.
I'll just say this real quick. They do. I feel like they focus on trans.
I like that. Like even over this, right? We've seen it started off pretty bad, but by the end now, well, at least like 2/3 of the way through, right? It's gone even crazier.
Issues because they don't want to actually work on the actual like, tangible things that their community, that their constituents need, because it's so easy to deflect and not do shit. And
She's like the worst she could
so like even when they were to, which is
thing.
it's problematic just to solely focus on economics. But they won't even do that. They won't even do things pass legislation that will benefit their constituents economically. They want to just do the culture war shit, not do shit for them, and just like coast off, just like gaining a new following, because that's another aspect. They're clout chasing too at the same time, and they don't have to really do shit. So it's easy just to go put on a fucking performance, do the bullshit, and then not because they're not passing actual laws that's actually helpful for folks. Like they're just not. So it's so easy just to go focus on the boogie trans women, that using the, and that's the other thing, like their wokeness, and that's a whole other thing. And I'm working on a video about that topic, but that's for another time. But
I have a video I'll talk to you about later, so buddy.
Okay. But yeah, that is definitely something that they can't be lost upon. It's like they're doing this to deflect because they have no interest in actually doing tangible things. They're probably the laziest people that are public servants. People that work in government. Like, how dare you? How do you get reelected and you have nothing on your like? What you're saying you're gonna do is, I'm anti-trans. That's all you have to offer.
All you can do is block other people's rights. But that's what the entire all Republicans are is weaponized around whiteness, right? Whiteness is a construct, and that's what people don't understand, and that includes whiteness is a construct. What white supremacy is, all of the rest of us that cover transphobia, homophobia, racism. It's all a part of the toolbox, the handbook that is white supremacy. And I mean that's what that's why I call it foolishness. The culture wars. All that really is other people want equal rights.
I mean, I think a lot of minority communities are like pretty homophobic and transphobic, at least more like compared to the like as a whole. Sorry, like instances of it are higher. Right, right. Oh, they tend to be more conservative. I don't want to say it in a way that's like, you know what I mean. But like there's a lot of minority communities tend to be like more conservative. That's not part of white supremacy. I think it's pretty homophobic. It's like really fucking homophobic in like a lot of like black countries, a lot of Middle Eastern countries, right? And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, it's therefore like it like if you meet a white supremacist, he's not going to be he's going to love trans people. No. Right? It's going to be bigger. I'm just saying, all prejudice really is part of the same thing, which is tribalism. But it's not all part of just white supremacy.
And they oppose it. That's what the culture wars. But by calling it that, if you make it seem like there's a wars or it's cultures competing, then it seems like two people both equally have legitimate interests that are in conflict, but they're not. One side wants equal rights and the other side doesn't want them to fucking have it. And that's what's happening.
Oh, and they take offense to it. You'll see white people all of a sudden being like, oh, wait, what are white people? What are you saying? Why are we bringing this up? I think this teaching of slavery and the genocide of indigenous people is anti-white racism. It's like, what? It's anti-white supremacist, maybe. I mean, if you're a white supremacist, you might take offense to learning that stuff, but otherwise you should probably be like, oh, neat. This is, history. That's what happened.
Yeah, and there's a really common thread behind all these. Oh, there's a really common thread behind all these, because like if you actually look at what the right-wingers are saying, you'll notice they picked up on using a term called, like they'll use the term cultural Marxism.
I don't know if they've tried to deliberately change topics or we're still talking about Ana Kasparian. You seem to be talking about the far right now.
They've been using it a lot. Now, for those of you, like the people who don't know, that's literally just a rebrand of what the Nazis called Judeo-Bolshevism. And it literally is like this ridiculous conspiracy theory where they think there's a secret group of Jewish people that is both turning people gay and trans and secretly trying to replace white people with people of color, right? Like that broadly is like the conspiracy theory that these right-wingers are pushing when they're talking about cultural Marxism. And the problem with, having these people who are like, oh no, if they're talking about trans people, we're just asking questions, but because like there's so many trans kids now all of a sudden. Why is that? Or, oh, it's like all these hormones, I just don't know if they're safe. right? Like the people who will ask the transgender question, right? While they say that they're not supporting like people who are running around talking about.
Yeah. She's the same as people talking about cultural Marxism and what was the other one?
Right? While they say that they're not supporting like people who are running around talking about cultural Marxism, the people running around spreading great replacement theory, the people running around spreading like the overt, like clearly like, yes, this is a white supremacist we're dealing with, they will just ask questions about different like marginalized communities, and that just feeds people in to those right wingers, and it normalizes.
That's mental. Right, they're saying just ask questions in the way that they're trying to make it out like the way conspiracy theorists and people go, hey, I'm just asking questions, right? Or like, get some racists, maybe try and mask it, right? So first of all, they're just saying that literally, if you even ask questions, if they're like, sound like, hey, so like, I'm a little worried about giving it, I totally support trans people, I'm just a little bit worried about kids and stuff, maybe you could explain that to me. They are actually as bad as basically somebody going around spreading great replacement theory. Yeah. Even if it comes to you really nice, I'm just like trying to ask that. I just don't understand. I'm a bit worried about this. Right? Don't explain it to them. They're a Nazi. Probably just punch them, according to these people. It's probably going to come next. That'll be it by the end of it. Just smack them. Because I bet these people all thought punching Nazis. And they're basically saying that like any of these people are essentially Nazis.
Them and invites them in the door to have a conversation, while at the same time closing the door to any type of trans person that might want to have a conversation, because of course, by definition, being a trans rights activist, as they would call any trans person, you're biased and terrible, not like, of course, the people spreading literal Nazi conspiracy theories. And that common thread is one of the things that's, I think, really important to understand, because it literally connects all of these things, right? Like, just because trans people are like the headline right now doesn't mean that they don't have other targets, because they do, because literally you're seeing a bunch of transphobic people right now, and they have been for the past several years, who will use transphobia as a mask for what is obvious racism when they accuse black women in sports of secretly being men, right? Yes. They've like found this like backdoor to be like, oh no, if I do my racism in this particular way.
Yeah, but then what's the this is what I mean. They see us all the same. So Ana Kasparian again. Ana Kasparian saying, like, bit worried about the kids on puberty blockers. I don't like being called cervix haver, right? Is now. But,
Exactly. More people will think it's okay.
Exactly.
Is that, or it's like all these hormones, I just don't know if they're safe. Like the people who will ask you're biased and terrible, not like, of course, the people spreading literal Nazi conspiracy theories. And that common thread is one of the things that's, I think, really important to understand, because it literally connects all of these things, right? Like, just because trans people are like the headline right now doesn't mean that they don't have other targets, because they do, because literally you're seeing a bunch of transphobic people right now, and they have been for the past several years, who will use transphobia as a mask for what is obvious racism when they accuse black women in sports of secretly being men, right? Yes. They've like found this like backdoor to be like, oh no, if I do my racism in this particular way, more people will think it's okay.
Exactly. Again, if they come to you in the morning, like, you know what I mean? Like, they exactly. That is exactly my tea, is that all our rights are connected and linked together. And I don't know why, and that's the thing, is like, I can't even be like, oh, I don't know why they don't get that, because I mean, they do, right? It's the reality is this. It's like, certain groups may be more disproportionately impacted, disproportionately impacted by certain things, but we are all going to be had, right? Like, and I think about that when you think about what abortion is, right? Like, abortion, outlawing abortion and this kind of medical care is not only going to impact women, but it's going to impact black women, non-binary, trans women, all these different people, right? And even though, and it's funny because abortion has been treated, exactly, it's always going to be treated.
These people don't understand like what the other people believe. The other people believe that like it's murder and stuff like this. It's not. They're not secretly doing it to want to oppress trans people. You want to?
Hey.
I said to say yeah. Exactly, Betty. Exactly.
But also, like, how did we get to a point where you're demonizing trans activists? Because, like, I'm a genuine trans activist in my PWI, where I already stick out as a black person as is. So you add trans to it, like, I have no choice but to be loud as fuck here, because I already stick out. Like, I literally, I'm, what the right would call, an SJW, a purple hair SJW, my college town, etc. And it's just like, so it's just kind of insane, because before I even did like YouTube or anything on content creation, like, I've been doing protests here in my PWI since the summer of 2021. First one was actually this a couple weeks after George Floyd. So it's a whole aspect of that. When I talk about like black trans issues, because that's the one thing like I feel like going back to me being the one black trans person here. I don't know if June is black or not. But
no, I'm white.
Okay.
I'm white.
But it's the whole fact that it's the whole fact that like I'm just talking about like how folks are going about the trans what's it called? They're fighting for trans rights and all lives matter approach to it. So like they're not they'll use the trans murder rate, but then they'll disregard the whole racialized aspect of those numbers, of those data that they use to get these grants, things. Like I'm talking about big organizations. Like they'll use the murder rate of Black trans folks, but not acknowledge that these are Black trans people that are dying at these high rates. And then we're underserved, we're underrepresented, and this is the other thing. Like going to the other aspect, like Black trans folks, like especially Black femmes, like we are not given any opportunity, any platform to be able to voice ourselves unless we fight and scratch for it like T.S. Madison had to, which is my trans mother. I'm not sure if y'all know T.S. Madison.
Of course.
But that's my trans mother. Like I saw her when I was in middle school. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know you could grow titties? Oh shit, all right. And I told myself then when I came across T.S. Madison on YouTube, so in middle school. But it was just, it all glued together. But it's the whole premise of, there's Black trans folks that don't even be fucking heard that are activists, that are dying, that are being murdered, that are attacked. Like, it's the whole aspect of, like, how the hell do you get to demonize us? We're literally, all we're saying is we want to have the same rights as cis folks. And also, like, this is, Black trans folks, specifically Black trans femme, are dying at a rate, and we're not given the platform.
That's not what he's saying, right? I mean, that's what most trans activists are saying. That's totally true. However, what's being said here is, if you disagree with anything ever, right, the people are saying, if you disagree with any of these parts, you're all enabling completely. If you ask any questions, you're enabling the worst, basically Nazis, fascists, transphobes, the most, right? That's what's been being said here, and it's fucking nuts.
Platform opportunities. We're not considered brand friendly because we're immediately seen as Black first, so which is immediately not brand friendly with folks. So we're just like, we're further marginalized. So because in the trans community, like there's still, like I said, and this isn't go for just like, this is not just like the allies that just like completely forget Black trans folks, but like they're still within the community. Like we're not even all together on like racism within the community, and that's why we have the updated progress flag, because just like if you seen Pose, if you just saw a rainbow flag, didn't mean your ass belonged there. Think of the damn 80s. If you saw Pose, that's when it's like. Yeah, so it's just there's so much to it, it's so layered. So and I love that too, and it's the whole aspect. But it's the whole flag thing. Like you saw the scene where like they try to go into that gay bar, but they saw the rainbow flag, but they threw their ass out there, and you saw the coon sitting up there. I'm sorry, shouldn't be saying that word.
We say coons on my show all the time. You must not have seen the Clarence Thomas video.
Oh, I have seen it, girl. I saw
this is Olurinatti, not leftist mafia. Let the coon fly.
Okay. But as you saw in Pose, the coon was sitting up there like, oh, well, I didn't, just looking shady, looking like, all right, oh well, that's
really
you.
Make sure
I
like
as few people as possible. And that's the fact. Like we're fighting on so many battlefronts, and that's when I'm like, Black trans women are just left on the side. So why is people having these arguments? Erased? And even the whole movement, because like I will say this, like the fact is, it's like, can you name 3 Black trans people that are entertainers, that are not entertainers, and that are also the other aspect, like the only Black trans folks that get a platform, they have to a degree, pass. It has to be slay. It has to be this fucking beauty contest for us to be fucking humanized. So exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I'm like going to talk about in the future video. But it's the whole aspect like this is oppressive that you're forcing Black trans women to operate, to be valid in society. Is that we have to be these bad bitches to be given a platform to speak about our fucking murder rate, our plight, us being under fucking served, and that's something that like needs to fucking end now.
That's true.
Whether you like me or not, that's the fact. I want to take away is that shit. That beauty contest shit that you put on over trans people of color needs to fucking stop, because I want the same opportunities that my white counterparts in the queer community are getting.
That's a bar. Bars, real rap bars.
Thank you.
I think that what this all comes back to is that if you want to be an ally, that's great. You don't deserve a medal for that, right? It's the bare minimum of being a decent human being. Having said that, though, to the extent that you're an ally, you don't get to dictate the terms of what is and isn't appropriate. And furthermore, we know that there are different types of ally. Ally is an umbrella term. As a gay person, I know that there are the allies who say, I accept gay people. I have a gay friend. I love the sin, or not the sin, right? We know those types of allies, and the ones who will put their bodies on the line for you and defend you and make...
Wait. You added an extra... You say, hey, I don't suppose you have gay friends. I love you, sin and not the sin. Well, what? But is this? Well, I'm not sure where he's going with this. Is he saying that this is like
themselves feel uncomfortable to go out of their way to advocate for you? Like, you deserve good allies. Trans people deserve the best allies imaginable.
So Ana Kasparian is like someone who's like a Christian being like, hey, I love you as a gay person, I just hate your sin. Fuck. It's just the exaggeration from the 2 things she said that are so fucking minor. No wonder she doesn't want to associate with these people. No wonder. Could you be asked?
Not ones that are going to be there 50% of the time and say, I'm not with you there, but you were quiet and really respectable there, so I'm with you there. You deserve better. You deserve better allies than TYT. And if they want to be really good allies, then they still can, but they have to do better. They have to listen.
No. I'm on my show. Hell no, they can't. At the end of the day, even if you were the most charitable, even if you believed them, even if you accepted all their bad faith bullshit is true, and you pretended that, all right, let's say leftist mafia did bully them, right? Let's say like we attacked them. Let's say we did, and a handful of trans rights activists. So fuck the entire movement and community. Think about this. Like, imagine that. Like, imagine if we said that. Think about that in any other context. If someone said 5 black people were mean to them, so now fuck these niggas. I'm on the press one. You're on your own, Negroes. You're on your own. That's what happened. So 5. So what you're saying is, leftist mafia, 5 people, 4 white guys and 1 black woman. None of whom are trans. And so to hurt your feelings, so fuck the trans community. Nah, son. No. The allyship train has left the fucking station and it's in hell.
Let me clarify though, because the point that I'm making is that you can't keep going about it this way and still think that you're an ally, right? Like you have to do better. It's not, oh no, I'm an ally because I did 50 videos on it. Like it's
because you did. You're not a real ally because you said I don't trust puberty blockers for kids, and I don't like being called a cervix haver. That's it. Done. No. Enemy. She hates trans people. She's like a white supremacist. She's basically saying fuck trans people. She's like somebody saying, I love the sin, I hate the sin. Like, this is a few tweets. Like, and some of the stuff she said, like, defending it.
More, you know what I mean? Like, there's more required there, you know? So, and it's not necessarily just about TYT, it's about everyone, right? Because I think that we all have a responsibility to go that extra step and make ourselves feel uncomfortable when we hear, like, I'm the least confrontational person ever, but being a good ally means making myself uncomfortable when I see transphobia, right? And this is something that I'm having to deal with on a daily basis where, you know, at a family event on 4th of July, I learned about transphobic comments that another family member said. And it's the whole rehashing of trauma, because the same family members that gave me problems when I came out are giving, you know, trans family members problems. And so, you know, it requires more than just I support you. Like, you've got to go that extra step. And so anyone who wants to be an ally, you've got to go further.
Yeah, so funny.
So as an activist, so this is the thing. I have 2 words. There's 2 types of allies. There's actual genuine allies, and there's self-appointed allies. Fucking appointed. And I say that at my protest, at every fucking protest, because I'll have people that, you know, and I call them, they come with their expired coupons. Oh, I posted that Black Square in 2020, and this, I'm like, bitch, don't come with no, like, just like the grocery store, bitch, you can't come with no expired coupons. Like, what have you done now? What the fuck have you done recently? And that's the thing. People want the fucking badge of allyship, but they don't want the work. They don't want the uncomfort, the discomfort. They don't want to see, like, they want to be there when it's like time to get, like, even like my PWI. Mad cloud chasers. People are mad cloud chasers. They want to, you know, when it's time, when there's an audience, that's when they want to be a big ally. But when I'm at a damn house show or a house party, you know, as the only black person there, where the hell are my allies? You know, when I need you to speak, because they'll be wanting to speak when it's not their time to speak. But when I need them to speak up, they ain't fucking speaking. So that's the thing. An ally will be there whether I was there or not. If they would see some anti-blackness, they would call it whether I was there or not.
Exactly.
It's the whole, and that's the whole thing. But like, I feel like within my activism, that like I just got tired of the white people here. I was like, you know what? I'm going for the black tops to the laptops because y'all don't deserve my energy, and I'm just gonna take this up. But it's a whole aspect. Like, there's just so many self-appointed allies. Where the second I start going in on white people, and like the second I start talking, because I've been talking about white queer folks locally in my protest since day one. And the second it went from having like a way bigger mass amount of because it's a PWI. So.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how when you start shitting all over people because of their race, they get a bit upset with you.
I started just calling out just like you thinking like you being queer doesn't mean you can't be racist. Doesn't mean you can't be complicit in some bullshit. And that's something like we're trying to get you to understand. The second I said that, the numbers had dropped by 1/3, like immediately like they couldn't handle that. So I don't know, they thought they was gonna have their hand held, but it's like no, like you came here, you got read, you got told about yourself because you thought you was doing enough, and you didn't expect, you know. Because again, like when they see me, when they hear me talk, you know, I'm from Orange County. I'm where Jake lost his fucking race, and that's damn right because that's a Republican ass county. Of course, he was going to lose in Orange County running there. That's why you got them. I don't know, but
that's why you should have won.
But no, to go back on that point also, it's like it's not that Anna or Jank can't be allies, like real allies. It's that they probably won't. Let's be honest.
Yes, no,
Anna's been listening to Jesse Single and subscribing to his Substack for over a fucking year. She's gone. Like, I'm sorry. I know some of you, like I think Mike or whoever, I'm sure. I think some of you have been like.
I've seen that little moan that she was. No, kind of agreeing with that dream. Oh, the devil. You know what I mean? You see some old horror film and they mention the name of the demon that's been plaguing them.
Worked with her or talked to her and been friends with her, but like I'm sorry to say she's gone. Like on this issue, she's gone.
Let's keep it real. I said this earlier. Let's be real. I'm gonna say this, especially because like
she's gone. She said she doesn't agree with puberty blockers for kids, or she's not sure about it, and she said she doesn't like being called a cervix haver, and now she's gone. No, now she's gone. She's an enemy. These people are a fucking joke, man.
Feel the need to like keep it hospitable anymore because fuck them. They're not gone. They've been on the second time. There are videos, like as mad as they are about whatever videos I did put out, there are a lot of videos I did not put out on them. And there's very much so videos of them right in the archive sitting down saying a whole bunch of transphobic shit. Sitting right there, your girl Anna right next to Jank saying transphobic shit in the past. Yes, in recent times they have been, you know, supporters of the trans community, but that's because they thought it was to their convenience. When they realized, I think exactly what you're seeing now with the right-wing tides is, with how the algorithm this, whatever it is, it's happening behind the scenes, but it's a pivot because it's always been this. I think we need to, they're not genuine. And I think that's the mistake of everybody like wasting their energy of like trying to talk to them, which was my position from day one. Stop wasting your fucking breath trying to explain to them something because they get it. They're making choices because it's a business. They are not movement leaders. They are people. They are commentators. They have a business, and that's what they're doing. And when it was to their convenience to operate with y'all, then they did. When it wasn't, they didn't, because the reality is, and as much as it hurts people to realize, is y'all aren't their friends. Like, they're not, you're not. That's what they've shown to you this entire time. They don't regard you as the friend, Mike. They don't see Dave as their friend. They don't see Lance.
Just bear in mind, like, they probably convinced more people than like any of these other people, right?
Is different because they've been very quick to say fuck all of y'all. You don't work there, you know them personally. You're all adding them. You're all they've literally gave all y'all the middle finger. You work with me? Oh, you think we was boys? Fuck you. Like, that's literally what they have made clear. So I need to be the first one to tell you that's not your friend. You know what happens when you were
because you're coming out saying, hey, you know, you're trying to sound clever and reasonable when you shouldn't be. You should just be like agreeing with absolutely everything I say, and if you don't immediately, then I'm gonna walk. Yeah, fuck these people. Like, I'm sorry. I absolutely want to be clear. If people came to me with the bollocks that these people have been coming to, who were like, if you don't like completely change your mind, I'll quit. I'll go, fuck you. Leave now. Just leave. I don't care. You know what? Even if I do change my mind, I actually don't want you coming back. Please leave. It's like, seriously, this is mental. Like, all she said. I'm not saying it again because we've been over it many times. You've been watching the stream. You've heard it 1,000 times. Right? We know what she said. Right? It's like the most minor shit. But to these people now, she's a bigot, she's a fake ally. They've been likening her to Nazis, to
somebody really is your friend. You see the nimble gymnastics we did on Leftist Mafia and the joke. That's what happens when people think you're their friend. When they see you as actual friends, you get what Emma got, what Emma said, what Lance was saying, what Mike was saying, what David was saying. That's what people believe they're friends do. People who believe that they're your friend do not feed you to the fucking right wing by name repeatedly on their show, go on a fucking press run and say, hey, if you would just put your neck right there, I could position my foot right on your fucking pulse, bitch.
I know. All I hear is
that's what they're saying. Because you were coming to them demanding that they change their views of like the two most minor things, saying you'd quit because they said like most like minor disagreements with like the standard narrative that you believe, and then now they're your enemy, and that's it. And it's like, no, it's like you got your boot on my neck because you won't immediately acquiesce to my demands and I threaten to leave, get the fuck out, fired, fuck you, I fire him. I just get you fired, just leave, please.
That you want me to cook my friend. So
probably soon.
No, listen, here's one thing that I will say that's really important for people not in this space, right? Because there's thousands of people watching us, but not in this position as like somebody with a platform. Just me speaking personally, but I'm sure this is applicable to everyone here. If I put out a tweet and I was getting praised by Ben Shapiro, getting retweeted by Carrie Lake, and lots of leftists took issue with it, and the few LGBTQ plus people that work within this company have reached out in good faith to have conversations. Benny has had this conversation with Cenk Uygur. Sandy Lovas, they've had this conversation with Cenk Uygur, ironically, about birthing person. I've had this conversation privately with Anna briefly in DMs and stuff. And if after having all of these conversations, seeing the feedback, how it was interpreted, how the articles, Fox News, for example, cited Lance and Mike Figueredo as the unreasonable leftists here going after you, if I saw all of this and I chose to just, still stay in the course, that's intentional. That is deliberate.
She's the one feeding the negativity and all the insults our way. She's literally galvanizing the hate. And I think that's what like we need to understand is like,
it's very purposeful. Like, it's deliberate. Like, it's not ignorance. It's not like, for me, like initially I try to rationalize these things from like,
she's galvanizing hate against them. These people are saying she's like they're putting words in her mouth, saying she's like a TERF. She's attacking trans people. They're like, I'm quitting. I'm not going to work here anymore if you don't agree with me immediately, right? And now they're like, oh, she's doing it on purpose. She's doing it deliberately. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's attacking trans people. Like,
okay, maybe she's just misunderstood, because that's what you do. You try to defend friends. You try to approach it in good faith, and especially somebody with such a large platform. Like, I don't want to just be like, hey, fuck you, because I don't want people to harden their stance, right? Because Cenk and Anna are very.
I must have misunderstood, because you can't you can't disagree slightly with me. You disagree slightly with me. It's not possible. Because you wouldn't do that, would you? You couldn't have a mild disagreement.
Fucking stubborn, so I know the way that they operate, so I try to approach it on their terms. But for them to still kind of go further, unfortunately, it's deliberate. Like, once you've kind of passed that Rubicon and now you're just attacking the trans activists as idiots, you can't really it's so hard to recover from that, right? Like it's just, the mask is off.
No, totally.
yeah, I
we're,
mean-
we're so far past that point now. Like at this stage, it's very obvious that she knows not only what she's doing. And to your point, Mike, if there's no such thing as this massive trans agenda based cancel culture vicious mob that destroys you on Twitter, and they demand that you have groupthink and obey every single rule. And if you fuck up once, misgender one time, you will be canceled. 1980. No. I have multiple times told to my colleagues and trans people, Lance, this ain't it. That's like an intercommunal joke. You shouldn't be posting it. And that was it. And I apologized. I deleted the tweet. And that was the extent of it. There was no great cancellation. There was no, we can never associate with Lance.
Yeah, you just after the demands. Like, she had some beliefs. She didn't want to change them just because you were screaming at her. And they're like, there's no cancel culture mob. No, you're literally doing it. You're literally sitting here putting words in her mouth saying it's deliberate, saying she's deliberately trying to destroy trans people.
She's truly the devil. None of that. If at that point everyone is telling you, hey, by the way, this ain't it, and you are still going down that road, then you are choosing that road. That's
exactly.
Another thing I want to add before I forget this thought: she's long gone, because her defending Kyle Rittenhouse was where it was like, okay, now she said she'd shoot them too. She literally said she'd shoot them too, and they over here chuckling and shit. Said, I would have blasted them.
I should laugh.
No, but it's the whole. It is ridiculous as hell. It's ridiculous as hell. And I remember I remember I was showing you.
These people are telling you once you disagree with one thing
at the time, but I was
once
watching,
you disagree with one thing,
we were covering that
worse.
over on
Can't
Brianna Boyd's
be. You have to
channel.
agree
We were
with
talking about it,
everything.
as a lawyer, and I was like, so I remember that. So I took her. I watched it from that point. So to go from hearing a professional, actually you who actually knows law, and to see her go in again. This is a Black Lives Matter protest. This fucking person crossed lines and killed people and got away with it.
Yeah,
and there's just so many fucking layers to it. So many layers. But it's the whole fact that she said she shoot them too. She shoot them too.
Yeah, again, was found innocent in a court of law. The full review of all of the video footage. Come on. I'm sorry. I don't think we should take guns to protest. I think that should be banned because it leads to shit like that, right? But it's not banned, and therefore he was attacked. People were hitting him with I'm sorry, it's legally self-defense. That was self-defense, right? It's fucked that people are taking guns to protests. I don't think they should be allowed to do that. I think that's mental, right? Because it leads to shooting. But if someone's getting attacked and you've got a rifle legally, you're allowed to defend yourself, right? Someone's attacking you with a deadly weapon, right? And gonna bash your brains in with a skateboard is a deadly weapon.
Nothing they do.
Right, it is, because you can kill someone. I think assault with a deadly weapon, at least I think in UK law, it's if it's anything you kill someone with. So if I come at you with a spanner, like a metal spanner, right? It's not a weapon. That's a deadly weapon, right? If I start trying to smash you and or I'm threatening you, if I come and threaten you, I'll beat your brains out with this spanner. Okay, a spanner's not intended as a weapon, but I'm using this one. That would be assault with a deadly weapon, right? So I'm threatening to smash your head in, right? So that would be assault with a deadly weapon.
Surprises me because I'm not holding you. They've been like this. I've been saying, I've never felt, everybody in New York City heard me cackling throughout the city today, okay? From I woke up today, all day, just a loud ruckus of I told you so. I could literally text you. I could play for y'all an audio note of me villainous laughing to my friend Chloe, about this, because I'm yeah, they've been doing this. I felt this way. I've said this on Leftist Mafia. I'll say all their takes, everything I see from them in a year of me of being aware of their existence, I've never seen anything I liked out of them. I've only seen takes that make me want to quote tweet them and carry on. And I don't, and then people would tell me, oh no, but their past, all that they've done with their track record, and then every time I see a video from the past, I'm like, it's giving bigots. It's giving bigots. So you too, what's up? So for me, I'm just the Rittenhouse take makes sense, because did you hear the shit that has come out of their mouth? I was literally showing my friend last night, giving him the backstory on everything, right? So I was going all the way back to my interview with them on
TYT. Agree with them on one thing. They were there.
Jenkins literally oh fuck, it's prosecutor's
chance. Literally, this is the problem with this whole crazy woke nonsense, right? Is it's not. It's you don't agree. They don't agree on one thing. Oh, they must be bigots, right? And at this point, it's trans stuff, because I don't think any racial shit they said, and they were totally supportive of Black Lives Matter, right? Shit like that. But oh no, I think maybe they didn't support rioting, or the Rittenhouse one, which I know Chen Q could still said Rittenhouse it was still saying Rittenhouse was guilty of murder or should have been found guilty or something. So.
Pressure coerce people into plea deals without cash bail. They're what? They were doing it then. And my face, my man Jake is there's a guy on the corner selling fentanyl. They're calling the police and they're not coming. He was. I'm not even exaggerating. That's an actual quote. That's the things that they were doing. And then right after having this fucking debate with them, first of all, at the end he tries to scold me people. Okay, this is all fine for theory or whatever, but you can't win elections on this. Me, a loser, a categorical loser, someone who has literally.
Yeah, don't fucking arrest people selling fentanyl by the street. And bear in mind, I'm totally anti-war on drugs. I don't agree with it. The reason people are selling fentanyl is because of the war on drugs, right? But right now, it's do you think most people agree with... Because even I wouldn't really agree with that. I'd say, no, legalise it and have it regulated, not just stop arresting gangsters. who are fucking like. No, yeah, it'd be really nice if we legalize drugs, and then a lot of the people who are formerly working in the trade, we could help them be rehabilitated through, working in maybe those industries, right, under supervision, right? But like, people not selling fentanyl on the street probably kills people. Like, I know you think that's the vote winner. Yeah, the judge tell me if I go around saying don't deal with that, don't do anything about that, right, or the police shouldn't come, then actually, I'd lose an election, and that's just crazy. And proves he's a racist bigot.
Lost. I wish people talk about it more. But too, I'm like, then immediately after the days after he's back on Twitter, they're back on Twitter saying the same lies about abolition that I just fucking explained to them. So I literally sent Ana Kasparian a fucking reading list. Like, you know what I mean? And they still so I already knew what was up. The price of tea in China was been clear to me. So I was not shocked when I saw that Rittenhouse thing. What I thought was funny about that, the Rittenhouse thing, is just imagine being the 29-year-old scapegoated as this big bully of this 40-year-old woman, right? And like, because you said, oh, first of all, she's lying on you. You never said this, but let's pretend it is your big crime. And she's like, oh, you told her friends to cook her. Meanwhile, she's talking about who she would have shot too. Like, what are we talking about? I'd have shot. That's not even that's it's a right-wing playbook, because why are we talking about Rittenhouse? In the year 2023, how would it even be relevant? You're just going down a list of things that the right has been passionate about in recent years and making sure you give it to them. She's just making sure she gets all the buzzwords. Right, Rittenhouse. Yeah, Rittenhouse.
It's like changed your mind on that. What's the purpose? What's the purpose in talking about this topic specifically? Why are we bringing it up? Why are we putting focus on this? Of all the other reasons to talk about this particular issue.
Exactly.
And that just kind of goes to show why how they're talking about these current trans issues too, where they're talking. I think Benny, in your video, you highlighted a clip where Cenk was like, "Oh, they talked about Republicans talked about the factor machine, that was a losing issue, and then they talked about this other issue where they lost." But then Cenk was like, "Oh, but now they have a small truth with like sports issues," and it's like, why are you giving like cover to Republicans on the sports issue if you don't also agree with it? Like, if you don't agree with this right-wing framing, why are you saying they have a valid point with it?
Well, I mean, that was kind of the vibe that I got from Cenk, like personally, that he personally doesn't like the idea of trans people being in professional sports, and that was just like a personal hang-up for him. And like, I kind of want to like touch on something that Soul Bunny said, because I think it kind of connects to all of these things. And like to touch on also the ally thing. I kind of don't believe in people calling themselves ally. Like, I think that ally is something that you're like recognized as. You're either getting invited to hang out with the dolls or you're not, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really that cut and dry. You know, like.
But did you get the blue sky invite or not?
When are these people appointing themselves allies?
Like, racism within the queer community, it's a very related problem to with what I think TYT has, because like people who have a certain type of like assimilationist viewpoint, like are unwilling to challenge like the white supremacist core behind how we conceptualize gender, for example, right? Like, and this is why I highly recommend anybody to like just find any analysis you can about gender as a colonial construct, because it'll give you like really good resources, information about like how to like pick apart like perceived gender roles and perceived femininity and masculinity, and how that's deeply intertwined with like racism and the history of colonialism and capitalism. Like all of these things are like deeply connected to each other, but like people have a certain type of assimilationist mindset, are sort of willing to adopt like the white supremacist narratives about how they should perform femininity, even within the trans community, for example.
These people will never achieve anything. They never have. People like this sit around bloviating and doing nothing.
Right, so they're willing to basically lash out at anybody that's taking a less assimilationist stance than they are, right? And so with TYT, it does kind of seem, at least Cenk and Anna are very focused on basically this like suburbanite kind of progressivism that is very much like, hey, we support you, but also you kind of have to fit within our narrow bounds of like, this is what we want, right? Like, this is kind of like what we want the ideal trans person to look like. This is what we want, the ideal Black Lives Matter activist to look like. Like they've got this like picture in their mind of this idyllic, like peaceful suburb, and not really recognizing, and this is where I get really frustrated about, like, to talk about what they talked about earlier, the nonviolent protests and stuff like that, is like not recognizing the real material violence between what's actively going on, right? Like trying to ban trans people from public is violence, right? Taking away healthcare from trans people is violence, right? Systematically jailing Black and brown folks for no reason, killing them in the streets, that's also like violence. This is a very, very violent system we have. We have the highest prison population on the planet, and American prisons are literally torture factories, right? And so, like, how do you not see the system as like inherently violent at its core? But it is peaceful in the suburbanite lens. It is peaceful within the lens of, I don't want to be personally aggrieved by these marginalized people. And of course, anytime I'm inconvenienced by someone from one group or anher.
Talking about the Young Turks, literally like one of the most like left-wing like main outlets that's like online, that's like constantly drawing attention to all of these issues, right? That, they just don't want to be bothered. She's like, they're like these old, rich white people sat in suburbia, and they don't know what it's like. They fucking cover it on the show that you used to work on.
Problem. And so, like, unfortunately, that is a big problem. Like, I think, like, in general across society, it's also, like, to touch on it again, what Soul Bunny said, this is a big problem in the queer community as well. And so, like, yeah, I don't know, understand that, like, I don't know, like, this is why it's so important, I think, for people to, like, really dive into, like, abolitionist literature and, like, I don't know, take the time to actually read Angela Davis.
Yep.
I'm going to pick up upon that. So, like, going back to, like, Olamide, when you went on TYT, and the fact that the way he talked to you, he don't talk to no other guests. Because the way he tried to shade you at the fucking end of that interview, after you sat down, you let him talk crazy, he talked over you, and you sat there and you broke it down. You really just like, you stuck to the material. You didn't get, emotional or whatever the type of shit they say. And it's the fact that even with him trying to shade you, you still, you made the choice. You made the choice. You made the executive decision.
I was nice. And while I have y'all here, let me just show y'all after he disrespected. Since I got y'all here, since they left to talk people business, right? Because I don't need to respect it now. Let me tell you what he said after he disrespected me and everybody knew it. Let me just read to you how I don't know what to classify him as, but certainly the non-black man will disrespect the fuck out of you. Let's show you a men be. You did a great job today. I challenge you on the issues, not just because that's the type of show we do, but also because I respect you. If I didn't think you could answer anything, I would have been more polite so it didn't get awkward. I was positive you could make your argument with strength, and you did. We want strong voices at TYT, not compliant ones. Hope to do a lot more with you going forward. I respect you so much that I disrespected you. I just need you to understand, because I respect you so much, I couldn't dream of being respectful towards you, and that's what it is. I want a strong voice with you. That's why we hope to do more going forward with you. And by hope to do more, we mean never ever speak to you or invite you again. Just disrespect you violently.
Yeah, I was gonna ask when's the next time you're going on?
When did that ever be?
Inviting you back on.
Right, and I obviously clocked it as that from then. I knew what the game was, but you know what I said was, thank you so much. I appreciated you challenging me and pushing back. It's important to be able to have these discussions. And again, thank you so much for providing me with the opportunity. Thank you both so much for providing me the opportunity. I went about my business, and I've never done nothing to these fucking dickheads. And then here they are, all over the fucking place. I was I did not join in when everybody and their mama was commenting on what obvious dickheads. And then I left it all, and everybody knew he was a fucking dickhead to me from beginning to end. I knew it, all my friends knew it, my mama knew it, who watched it, okay? And I still kept it cute. And here they are, right?
I can't comment, but I kind of wonder.
Full of shit. So yes, I'm so glad y'all decided to join me all deep late in the night. Thank y'all so much.
This ideology of, it's not even ideology, I don't want to say the ideology, because being pro-trans is good, being anti-racist is good. Right, but Ana Kasparian has said a couple of things. Has said, doesn't agree with being called cervix haver, doesn't agree with the hormone, is worried about the hormones for kids. And also, said, changed the position on Kyle Rittenhouse. So now in these people's minds, she's extreme right. They put any words in her mouth. The way they talk about her, these people who spent the last 20 years of their lives reporting on stories, doing everything they can to expose racism, transphobia, bigotry. They're rich white old people who just sit in their mansions and don't want to be bothered by anything. And these people do fuck all. Maybe she went on a march, right? Somebody went on a march. These people literally do bugger all, achieve nothing. Look at Lance with his self-satisfied face. Because he knows he's a grifter. Now, Lance is a grifter. But this is all just so... again, we've literally seen people over the course of this, nearly 2-hour video take a couple of statements by Ana Kasparian, who still very much, literally, we watched that thing on the Sitch and Adam thing, where she's very clearly very left-wing. All of the other stuff she's talking about is left-wing. Right? And watch these people talk about her she's some mad Karen who has no idea, who doesn't do anything to help anyone but herself. And it's no, while the views of these people that they've expressed are so far out of lockstep. If we look at polling data with black people, with trans people, with any of this stuff, we look at usually normie trans people, gay people. They don't believe this. They don't believe that someone's I don't really like being called a cervix haver, that are bigger, or that you get one go, you get to go, excuse me, that's actually wrong. It's to include trans men. They're no, it's to include trans men. I just still it's such a small group of people. I just think I don't really like it. Right, at that point, no, bigger, you're the worst of all, right? It's ridiculous. I'll see you all later. Don't forget to follow Footy Logic, watch the channel, it's going to be fun. See you later.